Okay, hello everybody. We are live. So we're talking about the very much anticipated uh, version of Dune in 2021 that came out this year, directed by Denis Villeneuve, as as I think a lot of people have had to learn how to pronounce his name.
I thought it was
This is
Villeneuve, but I guess I was wrong.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's French, right? Like
He's French. In case you weren't aware, he
yeah.
is very French.
He's very French. He's French Canadian. He's from Canada, from Quebec, Quebecois. He's a very cool guy. And he's like a big Dune fan, and it feels like there are some people like they've wanted to do certain projects for a long time. Obviously, this is like one of the biggest sort of not perfectly adapted like literary stories out there. Like
It's a tough one.
yeah. But we've gotten the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is a very great movie series.
Beautiful.
There's a bunch of stuff that's been adapted. This is like one of the things where people have been like, okay, well, there could always be a good Dune movie. And finally the stars aligned for this movie to happen. And it was very exciting. I mean, the cast is like insane. In this movie, there's Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem. And even more.
And even supporting actors that you will recognize. You probably won't remember like where you saw them, but like I recognized almost every supporting character in this movie.
Yeah,
like just an amazing caliber of characters.
Even people that like aren't well known, or we'll talk about them when we get to them in the story, that are like actors that I've seen in stuff that I really really like. So the cast is like amazing. The director is amazing. I've liked Denis. I've liked basically all the things that he's done that I've seen. There's only like one feature film, like narrative feature film, that I haven't seen of his, but pretty much every other film I've seen of his has been very good. So
yeah, he definitely delivers. Like I love Arrival. Arrival is one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I watched Arrival again recently, and it was like better than I thought of it at the time. I think that movie's really good. Yeah, he's done like the last projects he's done have all been sci-fi, and Arrival's very good. I really like Blade Runner 2049. I think it's a beautiful film. And then he did Dune. And Dune was supposed to come out last year, but of course there's a massive pandemic that kind of delayed everything.
Yeah, there was kind of something that was going around that delayed things. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it kind of messed some things up.
Yeah, so that led to a 1-year delay, and then also like on top of that, then he was pissed off because they did this day and date thing with HBO Max, which also may have sort of undercut the film a bit. But, again, all these things happened, and then finally the film came out.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain that it was on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Like, I did read why he was upset, and I think it's valid because I feel like he said something to the effect, I'm totally paraphrasing, that he filmed it, and especially the sound and everything was filmed and recorded in such a way that you would want to see it on a big screen and have that big screen experience. So I get why he was a little peeved. Plus, I'm sure there's a money aspect in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I will not complain that I did not have to go to a movie theater personally.
The only thing I'll say is that watching this film at IMAX, like a legit, actual, like big, we're talking about the massive IMAX where it's like the screen is a couple stories tall, was certainly like one of the best experiences I've had in IMAX. Other than the only other things I can think of are like Nolan movies, like The Dark Knight or like Dunkirk, stuff like that. So I can understand wanting people to like driving people to that experience. And I've seen the movie in IMAX like twice. I'm going to try and see it again before it's out of theaters. But I would say that's like probably the best version you can find in this film. And it's actually probably different from what you can see on HBO Max because there's different aspect ratios.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when you're seeing it in that IMAX ratio, you're getting a bigger image and you're getting more of an image. So yeah, I think that's a part of it too. But I mean, I think I've watched it on HBO Max as well, and I think it comes across well enough, very very well. And it's just relative to what type of experience people want. I mean, there's advantages too. Like, I mean, going to a movie now, it's like 3 hours basically, because you're gonna have to sit through like half an hour of ads, and then there's people. The biggest problem is the people in the experience, unfortunately, really. Yeah, the people are probably. I went to this one movie. I went to No Time to Die, and some people basically got into a fight behind me. Yeah, this just started like yelling and screaming. I don't know what happened, but like I think someone was on their phone, and then they started screaming at each other, and then that just like carried over, and then someone had to get kicked out. It was just like, yeah, and it's like very distracting. Like in the middle of the movie, people like screaming behind you. It's like, what the fuck?
It's like, great, I just missed like 10 minutes of the movie. I hope you're happy. Yeah, I stopped enjoying going to the movie theater because of other people, and because like you have to find a freaking you're first of all, you're assigned a seat, which I don't like personally. I like if like in an instant like that where someone's being annoying, you could just get up and move to another seat. But no, now that seat might be spoken for somebody else, and it's just kind of like annoying to me, and I just don't like. They're just kind of gross to me. I don't like movie theaters, and I haven't even before COVID. But yeah, something like that is just that's just like, just get off your freaking phone. You're at a movie, so you don't have to be on your phone or whatever like the circumstance was. That's annoying. Is that the new James Bond movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it on some like preview screening. It was like a Wednesday, and I had great seats. But yeah, I mean, like right behind me, these people were fucking like fighting, and it was not even like it was like. And I think the problem was this guy was just like screaming a lot. He was very reactive. But then what I suspect happened was like, so he's sitting next to two people, and then like one of the people was on her phone, but she wasn't like directly next to the person. It was like a person over. So he's like screaming, and so it was like basically it was like a couple, right? So it's like person, couple, and he's screaming at the person all the way over, a person over. And so it's like the boyfriend and the girlfriend. So he's sitting next to the boyfriend, and he's getting into a fight with the girlfriend. So then the boyfriend's like screaming at him. Yeah.
That is so unbelievably disruptive.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I went to a screening of Dune, and like, I don't know, there's just something about like, all these small things kind of piss you off. Like some guy behind us was like, he would not stop moving, and he's like, and then like the chair was squeaking, so he's moving, like I don't know what the hell he was doing, but he's just moving, and the chair is squeaking. It's like, and that's all I can constantly. Okay, dude, you gotta stop, please.
That is so obnoxious. That is like so utterly annoying, because like he knows that it's making noise. Like if you can hear it over Dune, then he knows he's making like, fuck people. I can't stand it. Like this is further proof why I don't go to movie theaters ever. They're terrible.
The people are the
too
problem.
Expensive. Oh, the people are the problem, but it's also just like, I'm not paying $45 to go see a movie. I can sit on my ass at home.
It's pretty expensive. It's very expensive, especially like if you're gonna see a movie like Dune in IMAX. Yeah, you're spending like $50.
Also, this is a movie people have been waiting a long time for, and you're trying to have an immersive freaking experience in something that is going to be awesome, and it's just like, that's not. I would have given a dirty look or something like, or I would have just been like, oil can? Do you need oil for your chair?
Yeah, or something.
Let's get somebody over here. Ugh.
Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, I saw Endgame once, and there was a guy right next to me, and he was blatantly on his phone. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? After like the third time, I was like, dude, what? Can you like not pull out your phone? He's like, oh, is that a problem with you? I was like, yeah, it's a problem. Where do you think we are?
Yeah. We're at a movie. Again, you're watching the movie so you don't have to be on your phone. Like, that's the whole point.
It kind of blew me away. So yeah, people are terrible. Like that's the problem, and it's sort of exponential. Like the more people there are, the more likely you are to have some type of a problem, which sucks. But I mean, there's good and bad.
The trade-off is that you're seeing it on a huge screen, and it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, and like seeing it with other people can be fun too. Like there's things that become more funny. There are things that you can maybe kind of get through osmosis because people get it, and maybe you wouldn't have gotten it. Horror movies can be fun, but they can also be terrible. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I will say that I want to say the last movie I saw in theaters might have been Rogue One. That might have been my last movie-going experience, but I actually had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when the whole crowd is on the same page,
yeah,
it can be more fun. Like the moment when Darth Vader showed up with his lightsaber and just wrecked those guys. Towards the end of the movie, like my sister and I were literally like screaming in our seats, like, and everyone else was too. So it's not like we were ruining the experience because there's no dialogue. Your just eyes are glued to the screen because of all of the cool shit that's happening. But we were literally like holding each other, like, oh my god, it's happening. We're seeing the build up to a new. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that scene's really good. That scene is really
But again, good. Everyone else was doing it too, so it kind of felt okay. But if no one else had been doing it, I probably would have felt really embarrassed.
Yeah. That's what the really, really positive part of movie going is. You can have that experience, and you and a bunch of other people can have the same experience where you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's really fun. And it's like
you don't always get that though. So it's like,
yeah, you don't. You have to like be kind of dedicated, and you have to like Rogue One as an example, you have to go to the earliest screening, pretty much. The earlier you are, the more dedicated the fans are going to be, where it's going to kind of, you'll have that experience. So anyway, so that was our aside about the movie-going experience, which is kind of related to this. So Dune. So Dune, this movie was very interesting. All right, so let's just start. I guess we'll just start. Is there anything we want to talk about before we talk about the plot? Is there any kind of broad strokes, things you wanted to say about the film? Thoughts about it before we get into it?
Not really about the film itself. It made me think back to the miniseries that came out like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which surprisingly has a decent IMDb rating, which makes me wonder and get a little curious because I'm like, should I revisit Dune of 20 years ago? It makes me want to revisit it based solely on the fact that it has a decent IMDb rating. It's in the 7s. And Children of Dune also has an IMDb rating in the 7s. So that's the only thing that kind of like piqued my interest, just based off of like watching the most recent one.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much you like the movie, how much you want to experience the next part of the movie without knowing much of the story, and how much, like, I suspect in the miniseries you're going to get more character, but like the graphics and the other stuff is going to be worse.
Yeah, the CGI is going to suffer because I remember seeing it because my older brother is the Duniest Dune head like I have ever met. I once got him a poster of that. It's just like a Dune basically, and it just says Arrakis on it, and he framed it. Like he genuinely framed it. So he's a huge Dune fan. I never would have been introduced to it without him. So when the miniseries and subsequently Children of Dune aired on the Sci-Fi Network, like I watched it with him, and I do have to give it some credit for definitely, because I watched that before I ever read the book. So I do have to give it some credit of making me at least excited about the series and what it had to offer. It definitely suffers from a lot of issues from what I remember. But again, like, it's like what you said earlier, the stars aligned now at a perfect time to where visual effects are amazing. We have some of the best caliber of actors we've seen in like years. A really good director with like some good movies under his belt, and people who are, and And subsequently, he's also a fan. So all of those things come together and make something really, really special.
And people take the genre seriously.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, 20, 30 years ago, people didn't really take it seriously. They thought it was kind of pulp or kind of silly or escapist. Yeah, this film takes itself seriously. It sort of presents the world in a way, and the actors do the same thing, and it's not there to be campy and silly, which is we what could have happened. Like there could have been a campy, silly, dumbed down version of Dune, but that's not what this is, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, the stars aligned. This was the right time for it. The stars kind of disaligned with COVID, but it still came out, and it's still, I think,
it made us just want it more. It just had us, frothing at the mouth just a little bit more.
It did, yeah. And this is definitely one of my more anticipated films in a while. I mean, especially other than just like stuff that's basically franchise bait. It's like, yeah, I'm excited to see the next Marvel movie. I'm excited to see the next DC movie. I'm excited to see the next James Bond movie. But those things are all kind of like continuations of these pre-existing IPs. Like Dune is like presenting a whole new world of possibilities.
And it's like a granddaddy of sci-fi too. Yeah. Like you would not ever, and I know I've said a lot, like you wouldn't have like Star Wars without Star Trek. You wouldn't have Star Trek without Dune. You wouldn't have any of those things, considering tons of elements of Star Wars came directly from the Dune books. So this is like Granddaddy's been waiting. He's been waiting for his time.
There's a reason why Han is a spice smuggler. Like he's a spice smuggler.
I mean, we haven't gotten to it yet, and I don't know how many people who watch this have seen or read the books, but the twins are involved. Twins were not an original idea, okay? At boy-girl twin, specifically.
Yeah.
The voice is basically the Force.
The voice is the Force.
Only it's way cooler.
The funny thing, too, so in this movie, there's an emperor. We never see him. We never see the Emperor. He's doing things behind the scenes. We
see his creepy little goon people walking around and shit. But
oh man, yeah. I mean, there's
and he kind of has a Darth Vader. Kind of.
A little bit.
The Baron, I feel like, could be an argument for the Emperor and Darth Vader as a combination.
Yeah, and I also feel like he's a bit. I could see how someone could read it and then see Jabba the Hutt kind of a thing.
I could see. Yeah, I feel like the Baron became multiple different characters.
Yeah,
because he's such an iconic villain. He's gross.
And he's such a gross, big fat guy who's.
Oh, he's glutton. He's gluttony.
Yeah,
he's capitalism. He's just totally just. Blech.
I mean, Arrakis is Tatooine, straight up, right?
Oh, it's totally Tatooine. It's totally Tatooine. Like, he's like even in this version of Dune, he's kind of like watching those little like Arrakis videos on like a projector, kind of like what R2-D2 had. It looks exactly the same.
Yeah. There's so many things you can kind of pick out, and when you think about it, I mean. Yeah, we'll get into it, but
we'll get into it.
We'll get into it, but there's a lot. There's a lot that's kind of.
I feel like we're gonna get sidetracked a lot because we're just both so excited. Like I'm containing how like excited.
Yeah, I know. There's so much to talk about here. Okay, so yeah, let's get into the plot. So this film. So first off, this film starts off in a crazy way, right? So like the first time you see it, there's this quote: "Dreams are messages from the deep," with some weird music behind it. And so we haven't even seen an image of the film yet, and we're getting this really deep. Yeah,
it's cool.
So we'll find out later. That's this Sardaukar throat singing.
Oh, that was so fucking cool.
I know.
Throat singing.
I know. And so we're already starting off, and it's like, what the hell? What? Okay, so that's interesting. So then, things start happening. We hear the Hans Zimmer score. And the first image we see is Arrakis. And we see this massive spice harvester. And it's sort of flanked by these dudes in these really cool kind of uniforms. Those are like, I'm pretty sure those are like the guild navigators or some kind of, some people whose job it is to do stuff, and they're collecting the spice. And we get this voiceover from Chani, and she's talking about how beautiful Arrakis is, blah blah blah, and like, oh, how the Harkonnens are super brutal, and all they do is they pillage the land for spice, and they don't care about anything else. They don't care about us or the ecology of the planet. And they're like perched on a sand dune with guns, waiting. And then we see some people jump out of the sand and kill some people, and then they fire their guns at the spice harvesters. And then those harvesters fire back like missiles at them and kill a bunch of them, and they have to run away. And we see this really great shot of like, basically it's Dave Bautista, he's Robin Harkonnen, and he's like overseeing this massive spice production plant. And it's just like this massive shot. Again, if you see it in IMAX, it's like, it is a huge shot of like this production facility. And he's just like overseeing it with a bunch of his. They're all very like, the Harkonnen look really weird, right?
Yeah, I think in like the David Lynch one, they have like super bright red hair, and then in the sci-fi one, I think it was something similar, but they still were very, very flamboyant. And in this one, they're just kind of like, they're almost like a blank slate. They're covered in black. They're all bald. They all have like these creepy eyes. I'm assuming some kind of inbreeding is going on because they look pretty gross. And they're just, they're very off-putting.
They're very
aggressive. They're very aggressive.
Violent. Yeah. There's some violence.
Or maybe, let me correct, maybe not inbreeding, but some kind of genetic mutation or some kind of genetic tampering is definitely going on with them. They're very uniformed. There's no distinction or individuality. Yeah,
they it seems like they all have the same eye color. They don't have hair. They they're all like the pigmentation of their skin is very similar.
They look sickly, but they're not, which is very off-putting. Like for someone to look like they're very like ill, but be brutally horrible.
Yeah, they look brutal. As someone will describe them later. So, yeah, and then Chani says like, by controlling the spice production, they became obscenely wealthy, like even more wealthy than the Emperor. But then one day they're told to just leave. They're told to leave. And we see them get into their ships, and the ships take off, which is very cool. And then it's like, she's like, okay, who's going to be our next, masters who are going to be the stewards of this planet? Yeah. So this is like, okay. So how'd you feel about this opening to the film?
I thought it was a solid opening. It pretty much gives you all the information you need to know to set up the remainder of the events that will follow. Like the Harkonnen were here. They were super bad. Nobody liked them. Oh, they were killing all of us for no reason. Also, they suck. And now we're just waiting for our next oppressor, basically. It's hugely like, this is like colonization. This is destruction of indigenous people. This is the slaughter of indigenous people, and we're going to do it at any means necessary. And they know that just because the Harkonnens left, well, someone could be way worse. Maybe there's someone worse than the Harkonnens.
Yeah.
I don't think there is. I think we're at the pinnacle of bad. But I think at this point too, you can hear it in Chani's voice that she's just like, she speaks for her people. Like this is the Fremen speaking, not just her. That we're just like, just leave us the fuck alone. Can you just go now? Like we're kind of over it.
Exactly. It's really brilliant. I think it's really cool. Especially like just seeing the scale of like what's going on and seeing all these spice harvesters and stuff. Like you're thrown right into this totally different world. And you see the Fremen and kind of their still suits in there, the way that they fight and the way that they, the technology they have, stuff like that. It's very cool. So Paul,
they literally leap out of sand.
They sleep out.
They literally leap from underneath you out of sand, like that. Like the Fremen And they stab you. Like, they don't even just shoot you. They will stab you with a crysknife. And what's so wonderful about the Fremen, sorry, I don't mean to get sidetracked, is that in the books, they are the most badass people, like, in anywhere. And they prove that, like, in the first scene of the movie. They leap out of sand.
Yeah, they're super hardened by having to live in this desert.
They, like, come from underneath you. That's scary.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, that was very cool. Just like seeing, oh shit, this dude jumped out of like a sand trap,
which means they were walking on them. But Harkonnen was stepping on a Fremen warrior, and he didn't even flinch. He just was like, "Yep, this is the job."
He just waited, and then he came out and stabbed him. It's excellent.
I want to be a Fremen.
Yeah, get a still suit. That would be that's a costume for Halloween for you. Make a still suit.
I think I did actually see someone who took a scuba suit and then just put everything over it because it's already one piece.
Exactly.
Like, it's already like one piece. So they were just like, oh, I'll just design everything else around it. Like, I was like, that's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's one way to do it.
They're so creative.
Exactly. Cool. So yeah, so then we see Paul Atreides. He wakes up from his dream, and he was like dreaming. We kind of get the sense he was dreaming about Chani. And he's on Caladan. So Caladan is a very different planet. It's very very Earth-like. You know, there's a lot of water. It's very hilly. It's very nice.
It is the antithesis of Arrakis.
Yeah, it is not Arrakis at all. It rains. It actually rains there.
They have water. They have trees.
Yeah. They have bulls, as we'll find out.
Yeah, I was like, huh?
yeah. Paul's grandfather was a bullfighting.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to skip ahead, but like the bullfighter looked like Patrick Stewart. I saw that painting. I was like, shit, did they put Patrick Stewart in the movie?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's in the scene, like when they're having him and Paul and his mom, Lady Jessica, are having breakfast. You see in the background, you see his painting.
Like, I know, I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart did not play Duke Leto in the original film. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but like, he looks like, and the painting looks like Patrick Stewart. I'm sorry.
It does. I mean, they definitely depict the, like I said, Iberian. Like, they definitely kind of depict the Atreides as kind of being kind of like what we would consider South American or Spanish or Portuguese or something like that. But yeah, he did look like a bald Portuguese Patrick Stewart.
Just a smidge.
Oh yeah. So they're having breakfast, and then basically Jessica's like, okay, so the herald of the Emperor is coming, and you have to be in full ceremonial dress for it. And he's like, why do I have to do that, Mom? He's kind of
I'm emo.
Like, yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, he really is like, but again, he's supposed to be like 15. Like, I think they're depicting him as basically being like a 15-year-old.
I think that's what they were going for. I was still watching this as if it was a 19-year-old. I don't know how old Timothée Chalamet is in real life. I'm assuming he's not 15. But I was just like, I know in the book Paul is supposed to be at least 15 to 16 years old. But I was just like, I think it's probably, they just aged him up a little bit for the sake of storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, he looks very young. Timothy looks very young.
He's a vampire. He's gonna look young forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he looks super young. But yeah, he's a teenager. He's a teenager. Let's put it that way.
Nondescript teen.
Yeah, and teenagers, they act a certain way, right? Especially royal. Like so the other thing that's interesting too, again, about this film is like, it's from the perspective of these royal people, which also kind of
aristocracy.
They're super aristocratic. They're all very hoity-toity and entitled. You know,
tradition, ceremony, birthright.
So that just leaves you feeling a certain way, I think, about the characters. It's not. We're not.
We can't relate to these people at all.
We can't relate to them. It's not Luke. It's not cute Luke who's like, I gotta go to the taxi station to get some paragliders. You know,
I need to go to a bar and nearly get shanked to death by some weird looking guy who's got the death sentence on 12 systems or some shit. He's not a Luke Skywalker. This is if Luke Skywalker had been born into his actual birthright.
This is this is Luke Skywalker if he was raised by Vader.
Yeah, this is the only change to the character George Lucas made. And this is it, where he lives.
I mean, legitimately, like, that's kind of what, like, when you kind of get into, like, what the Bene Gesserit are about, the Bene Gesserit...
basically Jedis.
Well, they're really Sith, actually, I would say.
I still want to be one, though. Is that bad?
Kind of, but not really. I mean, they're very cool. They're very cool. They're very, very cool. But it's some deep, like, the deeper you go into what the Bene Gesserit is about...
They're the Illuminati.
Whoa. They're the fucking Illuminati.
They are. They're the Illuminati. They're pulling them strings.
It's really like some, you know, we'll get into, but it's some like deep, it's crazy stuff. But yeah, I feel like the Sith is the more, because like it's a dark purpose. They have a dark kind of idea about what they're trying to do. But they're so powerful that people kind of just are bequeathed to doing what they say.
That's what I love about the Bene Gesserit is that people obviously do not like them, but they're like, oh shit, but she's a Bene Gesserit, man. Like, don't fuck with her.
Don't fuck with her.
They're so close. Their proximity to the divine, whatever that might be, is worth the fear. And I think that's where like their true like power comes from. And they have the Force. So
yeah, they have the Force. And then in the scene, so we get to see that for the first time, basically. And so Jessica tells Paul, hey, use the voice to get me to hand you this glass of water. And so he's like, I don't want to. And he's like, yeah, you have to do it. It's like, okay. So he tries. I really liked when we first see him try to do the voice in the scene. I thought it was really cool, especially the way they did it with the sound. So everything goes silent. Mm-hmm. And then it's just pure reverb. Is what you get. You don't even see him. You see his lips move, but you just get pure reverberation. And that's how this thing is interpreted as someone getting into someone else's head and telling them to do something against their will. And, you know, we see her kind of like, she reacts and she like picks up the thing and tries to hand it to him. But then she snaps out of it and she's like, nope, almost. You almost got me to do it, but you didn't get me to do it. Yeah, so that was really cool. I really like that. Did you? What kind of feeling did you get when you first saw him do these things in the movie?
I liked it, but I also feel like she has kind of an unfair advantage over him because she has way more power to resist. But I think that's the whole point, is that like there's always someone more powerful than his own mom that he might have to use this voice on one day.
Yeah.
But no, I liked it. You know, I think it's kind of weird that he. I don't know. I liked the dialogue obviously in the movie, but sometimes he calls him mom, and it just sounds weird calling Lady Jessica mom. I don't know why. Mother sounds more appropriate because again, this is supposed to be like an aristocratic like family, and some of the verbiage sometimes the wording choices kind of like it doesn't sound right. But like I like the scene, I do, and it kind of sets up the fact that he has a very good relationship, if not close relationship with his mom. She's his teacher, and she's there to like be his guide and everything. And if he can do just that one little thing, what the fuck can she do?
Yeah, it does ask that question. Cool. So then later we see Paul and he's like, he's basically watching a YouTube video about Arrakis.
Pretty much.
They have a little hologram projector that projects out these images. And it's just talking about what life is like on Arrakis, what the Fremen are like, he's reading a book about the Fremen, and it has pictures of their still suits, pictures of other stuff. Talks about their language and culture. Talks about spice, like why spice is valuable. It's kind of, we don't get I think the biggest, it's just sort of explained. We don't really see like why, but basically spice is valuable because otherwise you couldn't traverse the universe. Is really the explanation. So people who fly these massive ships that we see later, they use spice so that they can navigate. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous, pretty much.
I think also in the book they go a little bit more into detail about what I think spice is able to be used in a variety of different ways as well. You
Yes.
can put it in food. It's an aphrodisiac. It's a medicine. You can. It's a very multifaceted
Yeah.
spice basically or thing. And you can use it in a variety of different ways. In this, they kind of just go with it. Whoever controls the spice controls basically like space travel, and that's like huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they go a little bit more into detail, but I was fine with the explanation that was given in the film. I was like, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the ultimate power, is where people can go, basically. You decide if they can or not.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't travel through space, yeah, you're at a huge disadvantage. I think it also extends people's lifespan, like a human's lifespan. So yeah, there's some other health benefits. And kind of one of the things that's not really gotten into in this film, but like the navigators themselves, like we'll see when the Herald of the Change shows up, like in the next scene, he shows up and there's a bunch of people flanking him. Some of those people, like you see these people in these big orange helmets. Those are like the guild navigators, and their helmet is orange because that's just spice.
Just spice floating around.
Yeah, there's a bunch of spice in their head, basically.
Well, and it can awaken your third eye or like your second sight, or it basically opens a doorway, as is what many people believe in real life, with many like doing shrooms or other shit like that. Like they do believe it opens a doorway into your mind that can make you see and perceive things differently, which I thought was again, like, he just does a phenomenal job of like connecting the dots to real life to fiction.
And yeah, I mean, it's very like feels like oil, or some people even brought up like opium, like the opium wars.
Oh,
like
absolutely. Like this could be seen in a variety of different ways, especially like the colonization of the Middle East or oil and all of that stuff, for sure.
Yeah, I like the opium stuff too, because I mean, there was, let's just say that the Chinese have a very strong feeling about what happened with the whole opium wars. Like the fact that basically the British sold opium to them and totally exploited them. A lot of people see that as like a terrible period in their history because they were exploited by a colonial power who then sold them drugs for money, for profit.
Pretty much.
Basically.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Herald arrives. What's really cool about this, so like we see this massive, I forget what they call it, but it's this massive like cylindrical ship, which is like the ship that they use to actually get around. And then out of the ship comes one smaller ship. But when we see the smaller ship on the planet, on Caladan, it's massive.
Oh yeah.
So that ship that was getting them across, really, really far was like humongous. And again, like I said, so the Herald comes and he has this big scroll. It's all very cool. Like it's very anachronistic, but it's very cool. Like and so the Bene Gesserit's there, the guild navigators are there. Everyone's wearing these really cool outfits. Lady Jessica's outfit is like fucking insane. So yeah, the whole Atreides group is there, and they're like, they're accepting this thing, but it gives us a chance to meet all of the higher ups of the Atreides. So there's Gurney, who's like kind of a military leader. There's Thufir. So Thufir, this is another thing, again, they don't kind of get into. I can kind of understand why. There's some deep stuff behind it, but like Leto asks Thufir, like, oh, how much would this cost them to get here? And then you see his eyes roll in the back of his head and he does some calculation. So like he's supposed to be basically like a human computer.
Yeah, he's like I believe they call it he's a mentat, and most royal houses or great houses in the Dune world have a mentat on staff because I don't think they're androids. They're not. They're definitely human, or whatever they are now, like because of all that stuff. But yeah, he's basically a really wise advisor and a superhuman computer-ish. He can do a lot of math in his head at once.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that this will be explained at some point, but basically there was a massive war in this universe because some AI went rogue.
Big surprise.
Yeah, big surprise. So the AI went rogue. The AI nuked the planet. So they said, okay, no more AI ever. So because of that, you need human beings that are really smart, and so you need these mentats to do these calculations for you.
I think they're specially bred of something like that. It's been a long time since I read the book, so I'm not going to rely too heavily on my knowledge of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why Thufir's there. That's why he does what he does. And I can understand kind of glossing that because, like, again, it's very expository, right? Like, does it really affect the story that we're in right now?
Not really.
Not really.
It's the way it's portrayed and the way it's executed is if you read the books, you know who he is, so it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. If you haven't, you're just like, oh, it's sci-fi. Sci-fi will be the explanation that he's just super smart. Like, I think honestly, I'm not trying to like insult audiences or anything like that, but a lot of people who just enjoy sci-fi will just take it, oh, it's thousands of years into the future. Okay, I'll buy it.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of possibilities that. Oh yeah, and that's one of the least crazy, honestly.
Yes.
Of the things that we get depicted in this universe, it's one of the least crazy, probably.
No, just wait.
Yeah,
just weirder.
Just you wait. But yeah, I really like this sequence because it does a lot of stuff in a really cool way. There's just so much stuff that's really just visually compelling. I mean, the costumes are great.
Oh, it's a feast for the eyes. It really is.
Seeing the ship, even again, like something just as small as like the guy's scroll. I really just love.
I thought that was a nice touch because I was expecting like a tablet or a projection or something. I will say the only thing I did not like all the screaming that takes place. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of intense yelling, moaning at times that I was just like, why are we screaming?
Yeah.
A lot of whispering from very far away, which again, I get it.
They're like standing really far apart. I'm here, I'm the herald of the change. I love that guy.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He was great. Fantastic. I want him to do a wedding or something like that. He is fantastic. He'd be a great MC.
Yeah.
But I literally looked at Ryan when we were watching it because he's read multiple books of Dune. And I just looked at him, I was like, why are they yelling? And he's like, I don't know. There's a moment later that happens with a very intense moan.
Oh my God.
She moans really hard, and I get why she's excited, but I was just like...
Yeah, that scene's really interesting. That seems really interesting.
I mean, girl, I appreciate keeping it with the faith, but Jesus.
that scene it was kind of like shocking. It's interesting. It's
very interesting. Even the second time when I watched it, I was just like, yeah, I'm still not cool. I'm still uncomfortable with that.
It's like supposed to make you uncomfortable. Like you were saying, it goes from like, I know what you have, I know what you're holding, and then it's like this contrast,
it's not gradual. It's just suddenly.
Yeah. We go from a 0 to a 10 immediately.
We go into the stratosphere, and again, I appreciate this lady's conviction. I appreciate her faith, and that she's really excited.
She's really excited.
But let's just take it back down. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us.
No, it's all good. Yeah, but the herald of the change comes, and
I love Shakespearean.
It's very Shakespearean. It's also, I don't know, I just love it because like some of these people, their costumes, because like there's the guys with the Guild Navigator guys that have like those really big, they're holding like a staff, and they have these the globular kind of mask that's all orange. It's so cool. But then there's these other guys that look like Daft Punk, and they have like these the thing is black, but they had got these little speaker things on the side of their head. It's like, man, it's so cool. And then they got a Bene Gesserit person there, a representative.
Oh, those Bene Gesserit headdresses were intense, and it's so cool.
It's great. It's so great.
Very, very.
Yeah, cool. And Lady Jessica's wearing this like blue thing with like a shawl. It's so cool. And then, Leto accepts. We accept. We will bring peace to Arrakis. Blah blah blah. And then they do the old school thing where you take the seal that you have on your ring and you put it into the material, the whatever kind of
parchment, whatever they use as paper.
Yeah, and also they melt some kind of thing. Usually it was like you would melt wax or melt a wax and you put your seal in the wax so that it's permanently there.
Literally sealing your fate, sir.
He sealed
very
his fate.
Poetic.
Exactly. So then in the next scene, we see this flying ship. It's flying through Caladan, and we see Duncan Idaho, who's Jason Momoa. And he's cool. She's shaved his beard. No beard in this. Some people felt a kind of way about it. And so
House Atreides is like that. You know what I mean? Like, they're supposed to be the clean cut. I mean, I know Oscar Isaac's got a beard, but that's because he's supposed to look older than I think he actually is. Mm-hmm. Unless him and Jessica are like super young parents. I don't know what that's like having super young parents, but I mean, he's got some gray, but it's a well-kept beard, you know what I mean? But everybody else has got some, if they have facial hair, it's very, like, clean-cut and nice looking.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin looks good, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Like, people had feelings about, again, Rebecca
people
Ferguson
always have feelings about their goddamn beards and shit. I'm just like, he's in a movie.
Well, and also, like people felt like, basically that, what's her name was too young, Rebecca Ferguson.
I always pictured Jessica being in like her late 20s, early 30s. Like, I feel like Jessica was always a young mom, or like not like teen mom or anything like that. Like, I just like, I don't know what I don't know what people are like. You get Dune, we get Dune, like, and we also get a very extended L'Oreal commercial, which we will, I hope, to get to at some point.
Oh, it's throughout. It's interspersed. You know, these dream sequences with her, like, on Arrakis, I need L'Oreal so that my hair doesn't dry out.
On Arrakis, I use L'Oreal because it's such a dry climate. It's just, I mean, she's totally, the camera.
Want to spice up your hair? You want to get L'Oreal? It like writes itself, right?
Oh, it totally writes itself. I mean, like, again, the camera loves Zendaya. She is made to be a star, and like, you know, I was just like, okay, this is what we're gonna get, and I get it. I appreciate what you're doing. You're saving it. Good things come to those who wait, and I will wait. I waited this long.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, exactly. So Paul confides in Duncan that he's been having these dreams of Arrakis. He's dreaming about, there's this girl on Arrakis who's Chani. Also these other images, like he's been dreaming about seeing Duncan die in a battle. He's like, if only I was there. Paul says, if only I was there, I could have saved you. And also he says he sees Duncan with the Fremen. He sees them like hanging out with them. And Duncan's like, oh, cool, yeah, I see the Fremen, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, I'm not going to die. Don't worry about it. And like, dreams are cool, but you know, he has this line, all the things that are important we do while we're awake. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like, don't worry about it, dude.
Kind of ruffles his hair, like, oh, you're so cute in your little dreams.
Yeah, there's a very like brotherly kind of.
Oh yeah, totally like a big brother kind of like way, which I feel like in previous films it wasn't like portrayed like that necessarily. I feel like Paul just had a ton of mentors, but he didn't really have any bros or anything like that. So I kind of like that him and Duncan are kind of like, you know, older brother, younger brother kind of thing.
And Duncan's a great character in this movie.
I think he's a great really character all the way around, and I'm so happy they got Jason fucking Momoa to be the Duncan Idaho of literally everyone's fantasies, quite frankly. So
what's cool too is like he's really into the character. Like there's just cool stuff he did on YouTube where he just like kind of posted these videos about himself when because they shot in Jordan. And there's some stuff about him, you know, getting into character and doing the stuff, and like he's very into it, and he really likes Denis. So you can tell that he really wanted to be a part of this, and I think he gives a great performance. He's very, very likable, in a Jason Momoa kind of way, very cool, but also like he gets some fight scenes that are very good and very believable. It's excellent. It's excellent.
Don't fuck with Idaho.
Yeah, don't fuck with Duncan.
And there's a moment where they're like, yeah, cool, bro, take it. I don't care.
Oh, dude, I love that.
I love that. They're just like, yeah, take it. Here are the keys. You want my wallet? You're like, you want my house? Like,
there's so many. What I like too is there's so many like small things. Like we'll get to that scene, but there's a thing that he does. There's two things that he does that I really liked in that scene that I thought were like excellent character stuff. Like it makes you really feel like it was thought out. Like this guy is a very, very well trained warrior. But anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, I love Duncan Idaho. He's great in this movie. And Jason Momoa is great in this movie. So yeah, the next thing we see, so like basically they're all they're getting ready to leave. And Duncan is like leaving ahead because he's sent on a secret mission, basically. And so Leto and Paul, they're like talking on some kind of beautiful hillside cliff. Well, it's a cliffside where all of their ancestors are buried. And they have this conversation about like, oh, I'm going to Iraq. Like Leto's like, I'm going to Arrakis to cultivate desert power. I need to make a alliance with the Fremen. That's what I sent Duncan Idaho to do. What we're doing is very dangerous, and then there's this thing about the grandfather fought bulls for some reason, even though he was a royal person. He just felt like fighting bulls, and I'm guessing that's what got him killed.
I'm assuming, which I don't
Maybe.
really feel
I don't
that
know.
bad about, because if that was that far into the future when he was fighting bulls, apparently we have learned nothing about animal abuse. So
I mean, I'll tell you this. So,
ugh.
just as an aside, so my girlfriend is Portuguese. She's from there's like a chain of islands right off of Portugal, and I forget what they call it, but they have a thing, and we went and we saw it. It's called Bulls in the Street. It's in Portuguese. It's called Bulls in the Street, and so they let the bulls out into the street, and people get on their balconies, and we did this. We were on a balcony, and we're watching people not really fighting the bull, but like running away from bulls in the street. And this was, 4 years ago. They still do it. They have an arena. They have an arena for bullfighting. So yeah, in Spain, and again, that's why I bring up the Iberian stuff. Like people still to this day do that kind of stuff. The bullfighting and the bull, whatever bull in the street, whatever your cultural bull stuff you want to do is, people still do it, and which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
But as we'll find out in the Dune universe, there's a lot of anachronisms that people do that
For sure.
are kind of like, people still do that. Yeah, I guess they do. I mean, look, we still do it.
I guess some things never change.
Yeah. Some things don't never change, unfortunately. And I guess, this guy, he felt his ancestral need was to fight bulls, and probably bull got him at some point. But that kind of, I feel like there's some kind of allegory that they're kind of doing with that, with the bull stuff. Because we go back to this bull, like there's a bull's head that they take around with them, the Atreides. And we see it a lot, and there's really cool little sculpture of a matador with a bull, and it seems like that's some kind of allegory for like the political posturing, like when you're in the political arena and you're against, the bull is all the other things trying to attack you.
For sure. It's like, because you're one small person going up against like a really big animal, and that animal could be, an allegory for the Baron, like, symbol of like strength and power and being much bigger than you are. And you're just this little guy trying to like survive.
Yeah,
Even though,
exactly.
Like, the House Atreides is not the little guy.
They're not really the little guy. They're
really the little guy.
They're like, you can kind of tell that they all know that they're getting into a really bad situation.
Oh yeah, they're all going to die. They're all like, there's a huge possibility none of us are gonna make it out of this. Like, Gurney especially is very much aware. Like, this is not a good place we're going to. We don't want to go there. Yeah. But we can't say no.
We can't say no, yeah. Or if we did, it would be a problem. It would lead to other problems if we said no. So we're just not going to say no. So we're going to try and be prepared, basically. And again, that's why Leto's trying to make an alliance with the Fremen, so they'll have an ally. Desert power. We need to cultivate desert power. I love that.
Who better to align yourself with than someone who hated their previous oppressor?
Yeah, Exactly. So yeah, like you're saying this. So then Paul is sword training with Gurney, and so then we get this really cool scene where they fight with these slow blades, and they're kind of sparring, and we see how the personal shields work. So I don't know if you've ever seen the old Dune, 1984.
Parts of it so long ago. I only know what I like. I only have reference for it because of the internet and other like film documentaries that have also referenced it.
Someone I saw a clip of basically this scene. So Patrick Stewart plays the Gurney character.
Oh, okay.
So it's Patrick Stewart and Kyle MacLachlan fighting, but the personal shields in that were like super cringy. Like there's no two ways about it.
Oh, I can imagine.
Cringy. They were super cringy. In this they're really well done. I think the personal shield stuff is really well done, and it's like got this blue aura, but then when it's like when someone's penetrating it, it becomes red.
Hey,
really brilliant.
Hey. She hears a door open and she thinks it's like the soda car coming.
Yeah, it's someone evil.
Hey, you know what? That's what you get.
She's very protective.
No, this isn't protectiveness. She is mad she was woken up. This is clearly this is a temper tantrum, and that is all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's mad she was disturbed. And now you're gonna get up and get cold and then want to get back on the bed. Hey. Got the shit. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, no worries. So we basically, this whole scene is just explaining to us like how the slow blades work, and also kind of giving us an idea about how dangerous things are going to be, right? They're like, he's like, no, the Harkonnens, they're evil, they're brutal, they're like alien, and the Harkonnens are very weird. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I like there's actually a moment where Gurney's coming at him, and Paul has this look on his face. Are you trying to actually kill me?
Yeah.
Like he definitely has this moment where he like doesn't distrust Gurney, but he's kind of like, I think he's actually trying to kill me. Like he's coming at me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the lesson is that, like I could turn on you. Arrakis is not a place you can trust anyone.
Yes. Yeah. Arrakis is dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. And yeah, it also kind of like leaves us this impression like, yeah, is he going to betray them? Is he going to just like kill people? Is he the crazy general, that's kind of what we get the sense of. And again, I think they did those shields really well in this because, they did not do them well in the 80s versions, let's put it that way.
Again, some things are just a victim of time, and it's not a pleasant, it's gruesome almost to see it because you're just like, oh, this is all we had at one point. We are so lucky.
Yeah, super gruesome, unfortunately. So, the next thing we see is the planet Getty Prime, which is the homeworld of the Harkonnen. And this scene's kind of interesting and funny. So we see the Baron, and this is the first time we've seen him, right? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, this is the first time we see him. He's in some kind of sauna, and he's hella fat. He looks like he looks like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now, basically. I mean, they do like almost like a straight up visual reference, honestly.
Almost worse though, because it's just so. There's just I think part of it's because like I've seen other interpretations of the Baron, which this one is actually way chiller from what I remember of like other Baron Harkonnens. This one's kind of like a little calmer, which is even more terrifying actually.
Yeah. Very calculating.
Very calculating, he's not stupid. Oh, I thought she had a bag of chips or something.
Okay.
It's just a toy. But he's not stupid. He's very calculating. He's very patient. Yeah. I don't remember other barons being patient, which is something that he was in the books as well. It's just like he knows he's the strongest person in the room. Like he knows he's the most badass person in the room, and you don't want to fuck with him. Like there's a reason people are like terrified to be in his presence. Even people who work for him are like, I really don't want to be around this guy. He's very off-putting, and it's not just because he's a big fat guy. It's because he's just And he proves it at one point, but he's like, I have no problems with just killing everyone. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
He knows who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a character that is at all confused about who or what he does.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean?
He's
a super greedy dude. He's a greedy dude.
Very much so.
Who likes to consume, and he likes wealth, and he's just garbage person.
He looks like a tumor. He looks like a giant conscious tumor.
Yeah, he's disgusting. Yeah, so Raba is coming and basically saying, okay, yeah, all our ships are gone from Arrakis. And he gets really pissed. He just starts screaming.
Again, he just starts shouting. There's no it's just a crescendo of screaming.
Yeah.
Which actually makes more sense for his character. For whatever reason.
He seems like a military guy, right? Like he seems like he's their military. He was there. They bred him to be a military leader. That was it. And that's his purpose. Like again, other people.
Go ahead.
Other people they bred, so like they bred the Mentat, and we see the Mentat, Peter De Veers. We see him in this scene. They bred other people to do other things, and again, most of them look kind of very similar. Like, but you can kind of tell there's like a type. They have types, and they just like freaking like copy paste them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, but he just starts screaming like that Duke, blah blah blah. How could they do this to us? How could they take on? So yeah, he went from a 0 to a 10 immediately. So.
And the Mentat's like the only calm one in the room. He's just like, bro, take it down.
Yeah.
Like, chill. You want some spice? Have you had too much spice? Like, I think we need to cut you off for a little bit. Like, go chill.
This scene is really cool. Like, I think that the lines are really great in there. Like the Baron says, you know, when is a gift not a gift? And then he says, you know, the Emperor is a jealous man, a dangerous jealous man. And that kind of is supposed to be like the whole, like, that's the explanation we get, right? For like why the Emperor, whom again we've never seen, we haven't seen yet, is deciding to destroy the Atreides house. Mm-hmm. But it's a very cool way to kind of depict it. You know, but yeah, this scene kind of gives us the whole thing. It's like, yeah, the Emperor's jealous. The Atreides are becoming too powerful, and so this is a way to destroy them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's interesting is that the evil person in the shadows is supposed to be the worst one, and I feel like he's just a petty, jealous person. And I'm actually Baron Harkonnen's like, I'm actually way more powerful than this motherfucker.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because again, Gurney talks about like they're super well, and even like the Chani, like at the beginning, like they're even more wealthy than the Emperor. So they have even, I guess, on a certain level, you could say more power than the Emperor. But I'm sure the Emperor could, if he felt the need, could destroy them with different political power because there's different types of power. Like it seems like the Harkonnens, they have like the economic power. They have all of these wealth and resources, and they, as we're going to see later, they can bring those to bear against someone to try and destroy them.
And they have production of spice down to a science. They are very, very good at producing it. They show why they're the best at harvesting spice.
Yeah,
and that's the sick part.
And like you said, spice is the most important thing in the universe, basically, the most important resource. Without that, you can't do space travel. Without that, people can't live as long, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. And so that's made them super wealthy and super powerful. And now they're going to use that power to destroy the Atreides. Yeah. So that was really cool. And their planet is very dark. It's very like black.
Oh, it's very devoid of light. It's very. What is your issue? It's very devoid of light. It probably has a whole bunch of little chihuahuas running around nipping at everybody. That would totally be the Baron's dog. It would be like a little like pale, pasty, hairless chihuahua. I
can't wait to talk about the Baron's pet in this because that was weird. What the fuck was that?
I'm just like I went directly to Comic Book Girl 19's Twitter after I watched this because I was like, I need to know.
What is it going on?
Like, what is it? And I think even she was just like, I have no idea what that was. I think that was probably just thrown because it has hands.
It has human hands.
It has hands.
I believe it has a human face as well.
I don't remember seeing the face. I'll have to like rewatch the scene again. But like it is.
We saw, what do they call that? Like that part of like an insect? What do they call it? Like the back part? The thorax. Yeah, we just see the thorax.
But it looks like it's like in like leather. It doesn't look like skin.
It does. It does. It looks like it's in a latex suit.
It does look like it's in a latex suit, and it's very off-putting and uncomfortable, and I feel bad.
It's got human hands. It's like a tarantula with human hands and a human face.
Pretty much.
Like,
and it's got a booty. It had a booty. And I'm just like,
what the hell am I looking at?
Because I think the Baron is supposed to be like a really like just nasty
in the book, yeah, and even I think in the like there's some stuff that's like super fucked up. Like they say, oh, he's bad because he's gay. Like they kind of did that.
There's a lot of homophobic stuff, especially in the interpretations. I don't remember a whole. There's some stuff that happens in the book that with by Baron that's kind of uncomfortable, but they never explicitly say like, oh, like he's bad because he's gay. But in the I do remember that about the films is that it's very heavy-handed with the fact that he's evil, so he must be gay.
Exactly.
I think that's also it being like a super like just horrible thing to like subtextually, not even subtextually, like it's blatantly obvious that like anyone who is any kind of other must be evil. Okay, you need to stop. Ellie, you're being so utterly disruptive. Sorry.
It's all right.
But they don't. I was really appreciative of the fact that they didn't go there in the new film, being that, you know, even if the Baron was gay, that has nothing to do with him being evil.
Yes.
So it's just kind of, I'm really glad they did not include that. You can make him evil without having that part of it.
Because I think also in the 80s movie, not only was it like the gay part, like first off, okay, so it's like you have a redhead. Okay, so that's interesting. Then it's like you get the gay stuff, okay, and then they like go even further and say like, oh yeah, he's got like basically herpes, like space herpes. So it's like they're just layers and layers of like, it's like, okay, you've gone too far. You've gone too far with the shit. But I think
it's really homophobic.
Yeah, it's super homophobic. I think in this they did the right level of like creepiness, where we get, again, dude's really greedy, he's really fat and gross, but we don't need to like go any further than that to explain how evil he is. It's obvious enough. Like you see this dude and he's fucking hella fat and nasty. It's like, all right, I get the picture.
Yeah,
I totally get the picture.
Like he can't even walk.
Yeah,
like
no, he can't.
And that's even creepier. There's a moment like when he's eating and like you just see him kind of slither up and it's out of focus, so he looks like a snake just kind of like stretching out, and it's so
really
off-putting.
it's really
so
interesting.
Off-putting.
Yeah.
He nasty as fuck.
The Harkonnen are like, oof, the Harkonnen are something. So then the next scene we see the Bene Gesserit arrive, and this is really cool. This whole sequence is really, really cool.
That chanting was just like
the chanting. Yeah, this stuff is really cool. So their ship arrives, and they come to see Paul. And so the other thing too about the Bene Gesserit stuff is like, the Bene Gesserit are like, they're just like totally their own thing, and they kind of play their own game, and it kind of makes you question stuff about Jessica too, because it seems like she's like beholden to them, and you just really start to think like, what's her motivation?
Where are her loyalties?
Where is her loyalty?
She's obviously super conflicted about the fact that they want to see him, that the Reverend Mother wants to see him. And she's just like, she is a nervous freaking wreck, because like the Reverend Mother even says, your mom is not going to let anyone come through that door.
Yeah.
At all. And Jessica knows she won't let anyone go through that door. Like she's standing there, literally. She looks like she's going to vomit.
Yeah. She does a really good job of like kind of depicting how tense the situation is.
Yeah, and on my first viewing, I honestly did not necessarily like this portrayal of Jessica. My first viewing, I was like, can you stop fucking crying? Like, it was really annoying me. A lot of her dialogue was like when she does the whole, like, fear is the mind killer, like that iconic, like, mantra, I was like, I can't understand half of the things you're saying.
Oh yeah,
like I can't understand it. But then my second viewing, I'm like, she's a mom. Like, I would probably be a nervous wreck and crying a lot too, because like, especially given the circumstances of what Paul could be, I would feel probably like crying all the time too. So my second viewing, I definitely appreciated the performance a lot more.
Yeah, she also kind of put him into the situation. Like
there's a lot of guilt.
She decided, I guess, she decided to have a child that was a boy to make Leto happy. And that's something too, we kind of just, I guess, to kind of brush on this right now is like, what's interesting too is like, Paul's not considered a bastard child.
No,
he is considered a legitimate heir, even though him and his mom is not married to his father.
No, they're not married. She is considered a concubine.
Yeah, she's considered, but he's a legitimate son. He's not considered a bastard.
Well, what's really interesting about the whole like concubine factor is that in quite a few like Middle Eastern countries and things of like and cultures like that, the concubines were considered like these are the best of the best, and they will produce the best of the best. It wasn't considered looked down upon. Like very rarely did a ruler from regions like that ever marry a woman in their harem or their concubine. It was very, very rare when that did happen, because it would literally shake the entire foundation of their economics or, you know, whatever. And there was actually a ritual, or not really a ritual, but it was kind of a tradition that when a father would die, there would be a culling of the rest of his sons. So all of these sons would fight each other basically to the death to be the next, ruler. And actually there was actually a woman who did end up marrying I can't remember she became a sultana basically, and she was like the first sultana. She's like, yeah, so I don't want anyone's kids to die anymore. So we're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore. It's very interesting. So they were legitimate, even though they weren't. Marriage wasn't necessarily on the table for a lot of these cultures. It was like, why, when I can have sons from hundreds of different women from all over the world.
And in this film, like, they don't get into it again. I can kind of understand, because they kind of brush over this a bit. But the reason why he didn't marry her is for political reasons, basically. So, like, if he's not married officially, he could create an alliance through a marriage, potentially, in the future. Duke Leto
exactly could. Because there is some kind of hierarchy with, dukes. We got barons, we got emperors. There's still legitimate like princesses out there, which hopefully we will see in part 2. One of my favorite characters from the book. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, good things come to those who wait. That's what I keep telling myself. So even though it's plus with Jessica, he also not only has like a woman that he loves, which he genuinely does love Jessica, which like wasn't. I wish they had gone a little bit further with their relationship. I get for the sake of time, it's already a super long movie. I get, but he also has like a freaking Bene Gesserit at his disposal, and that is like something I think a Bene Gesserit's in most of the houses as like an advisor. She's like top tier basically, but she also just genuinely loves Leto. Like she's like nuts about him. She's like
and again, like you said, this was another smart political move by him. It's smart in a way. At least he's able to preserve his line by having an alliance with the Bene Gesserit. Like, so. Oh,
totally. Like
so because he has a son, there's a Bene Gesserit aligned person who is a Atreides.
Yeah.
And so that's like another way of protecting the Atreides, because like people don't fuck with the Bene Gesserit.
No, not at all. And the fact that he's a boy, like, again, if you haven't read the books, the fact that Jessica has a boy is not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to happen.
Paul should not be a thing. And that just goes to prove more how much she loves Leto, is that she's like, because Bene Gesserit can control the gender of their children. And it's generally always female.
Yeah, their whole order is all
Their whole order is female.
All female, yeah. And so she went against her order by having a boy. And
he loves him.
And that's a problem. And that's why she's nervous in the situation. She's like, well, now I've made this choice. So this situation is happening, and it could go south, and he could die, and maybe I fucked up really bad.
Yeah, because like, yeah, Jessica loved Leto and wanted to give him a son, but also like the Reverend Mother even says, "You're so arrogant that you thought you could bring about the Kwisatz Haderach."
Yeah.
Bitch, what? Who do you think you are, little lady? Like,
yeah,
that's a Messiah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm getting. Continue. Sorry.
He could be the one. He could be the Messiah. So the Reverend Mother arrives, and this whole scene is very cool. We see the ship come down. We see all of the Bene Gesserit sisters come out, and they're all wearing those cloaks and hoods. And then, she wakes up Paul. Paul's like, what? It's like, the Reverend Mother, Mohaim, is here to speak with you about your dreams. And he's like, I really love this, like, how does she know about my dreams?
And she's
and he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. It's just like, dude, it's open secret. We're all like psychic, and we all know.
She's like, sweetie, everyone knows who Cheney is. We've all seen your dreams, okay?
Yeah.
Actually, I really like about like not just the movie, but the books kind of touch on this as well. Is that almost everyone seems to have the ability to have a second sight or to have that psychic or telepathic. Because everyone almost always has, it's kind of like, again, in Star Wars, whenever Han says, I have a bad feeling about something, that's like the Force telling him, hey, bro, like something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even Leto has a line later in the movie where he's like, I wish we had had more time. It's not just the circumstance. He knows something is inherently wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about like Dune is that everyone might have the potential, given enough spice snorting, to get this otherworldly like knowledge and shit. I love it.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing too is like, so part of the Bene Gesserit power is like they're channeling like their ancestors, which is why some interesting stuff. But like when you hear them use the voice, there are layers of the voice.
Yes.
And so some of those layers are like their ancestors that are women, and that's why it's a female voice, sounding voice.
I love the way it sounds. It's
super creepy and eerie.
It's so eerie and unnerving, and it's literally just like the dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and the living potentially. Like I kind of forget about that part, but like it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's channeling all this stuff. And so, she uses the voice on him. So, like, she says, okay, Jessica, leave us. And by the way, so Jessica even says, the Reverend Mother was my trainer. She trained me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's, what do they say? They say that the Reverend Mother is truth seeker to the Emperor. Yes. So, basically, she's the highest person in the Bene Gesserit order.
And potentially the second most powerful person in the universe.
In the universe, yes. She's the second. So this is a big fucking deal. This is not something to take lightly. But again, it shows how connected all these people are and how connected Paul is. Like, like the Bene Gesserit purposely wanted Jessica and Leto to get together. This was not a mistake. This was on purpose. And so that's why Jessica was purposely trained by the Reverend Mother as a part of this whole thing that they're trying to do, their whole machination that they're trying to do. They've been trying to get to this point. Now, Jessica kind of messed up their plan because she decided to have a son. She has free will and had a son, but they did basically want this kind of thing to happen.
The mistake was that Jessica and Leto actually were like into each other, and she actually wanted to do something to make him happy. And whoopsie.
Yeah.
It kind of brought about the Messiah.
Yeah, it brought about the Kwisatz Haderach. So then we get the Gom Jabbar test.
Yes, we do.
Which is really exciting. And this whole sequence is really, really good. Yeah, like the way that because like the voice, when the Reverend Mother uses the voice, it's different than when Paul does it. Like it's way more powerful. It's way more powerful. And she's like, come here, kneel. And
he tries to be a little bitch, and he's just like, you ordering my mom around her house. And she's like, get the fuck over here, you kid. Like, I don't have time for this. I am truthsayer to the Emperor.
Yeah.
You were on the bottom of my list.
Yeah. Yeah. We have other prospects.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do.
Man, yeah, this scene's really powerful. And then he does the Gom Jabbar test. Put your hand in the box. And if you take your hand out of the box, I will kill you. And if not, you can pass. What's inside the box?
Pain.
So yeah, he puts his hand in the box, and this is really brilliant too, because like another thing that was like kind of a problem with the other film, the 80s film, is like there's this constant inner monologue of kids.
I do remember that being a huge criticism, which there is inner monologue in the book. And I do understand why they were trying to translate it so purely. I really do, but it's bad.
It just doesn't work in a film.
It doesn't work in a film. You're taking so much potential away from actors too, I feel like, from really portraying, like, because when Timothée Chalamet puts his hand in that box, I'm afraid for Timothée Chalamet. I'm like, I know what's in that box, and it's not going to be good. The pain that he's able to portray is just, and Jessica too, like you can tell she feels what he's feeling. Like that's a mom who's just like, I'm letting my kid be like tortured.
Yeah.
I'm letting that happen. And it's like, it is intense.
It's really intense. And that's what I like though. Like it's sold just by the sound and the look on his face. We don't need anything else.
She tells him to shut up.
Yeah.
Like the Reverend Mother, she's not going to be nice to you. She's not going to give you, oh, here's a tissue, sweetie. She's like, quiet.
No.
Pain is what's in the
You're
box.
gonna feel pain.
Like, and that needle, like even the needle, the intricate detail on it was just, it looks dirty. It's just like that perfect little pinprick. It like literally like
instant death.
Instant death is what happens. And it's just, it's such a brilliant test too. Like how much can you take?
It's brilliant. Yeah. This whole scene, if there's anything that's quintessentially Dune, it's this scene.
Oh, like this is it. Like just like the word.
The other thing too, like I'm just really, there's just something about this scene that really makes me feel like we're seeing like a universe where, I don't know why, I just think of Luke in Return of the Jedi, where he's wearing that all black outfit and he's, you're just like, ooh, he could be very dark. There's just something when he's standing there, like there's a shot where after they do the test and Jessica comes back and he's just standing there in his clothes and he's wearing all black and he's kind of posing in a way, but it's posing but not posing. He's not a poser, but he is posing. And it's just very cool. It's like, yeah, this is the guy. This is he's the one. As it were.
This is the one. Move over Anakin Skywalker. Move over Luke Skywalker. This is the quintessential. Yeah. This is the OG.
Yeah, the OG one.
This is the GOAT. Okay, like, and there's that moment and where he just like he's in pain and he's like traumatized and he just looks at her and that vocalization comes in and it's just like, oh, I can't get over with how amazing that was. Like he just gives her that look and you hear that vocalization from the soundtrack and it's just chills.
It's brilliant. It's like perfect. It's really perfect. And like, and Jessica is like outside reciting the litany of fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the blah, 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 blah. I don't know the whole thing.
The little death.
That brings soul obliteration.
Total obliteration.
Yeah.
I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me. I'm giving it the permission.
Yeah.
Bitch. Yeah. Like it is just.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's super brilliant.
It's just wonderful. And you can kind of tell he's like kind of connected still to Jessica and he's like getting that a little bit, I think. And it's just.
Yeah. When I first saw it.
Or she's just doing it solely for herself because she's afraid for him. So I feel like it could be interpreted in a couple of different ways, for sure.
Yeah, my first viewing, I almost felt like they were kind of connected and she was just trying to help him. Like she was reciting the litany of fear so that he would almost be transposed to him so that he could like overcome this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I do kind of like the choices that they have with Jessica because like, again, I know in the book it's kind of like she's supposed to be super in control of her emotions and stoic. But I do like that they kind of, because like this version of Jessica is very, very strong character. There's a lot of strong characterization and there's a lot there for people to grab onto. And I like that. What I really find interesting about this whole film and this story, it's a mother-son thing. Like that's what this film's about. It's about the two of them, and they have this destiny that they are both kind of heading towards, basically.
Oh yeah, because Jessica's got a lot more to offer. She has got, there's so much, like, you could argue she brings about not just the Messiah, but like so much more than that. Like, she is the mother of a lot. Like, it's, she really is just an outstanding character. I love Jessica. And the thing about her stoicism too in the book is that you have to add a layer of vulnerability to that, because I feel like when the book was written, women couldn't really show that vulnerability because it's like, oh no, we don't want to be seen, not heard, kind of a thing. And Jessica, while Jessica is seen and not always heard, she has so much to say. And she really, they bring that new vulnerability that I feel like audiences nowadays kind of want in their female characters, who are supposed to be incredibly tough and strong. And like, yeah, she's a freaking Bene Gesserit witch, and she has like a lot of power, but you know, like, she's kind of afraid too. Like, that doesn't just go away. You can't breathe that out.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, there's this kind of British, the stiff upper lip, that type of royalty stuff, especially like I feel like at the time where it's even stronger. I think now that stuff has been chipped away. I mean, there's going to be another Princess Diana movie coming out.
Yeah.
I feel like that the whole Diana stuff like made people be like, okay, fuck this shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, they actually have feelings and mental health issues.
And it's really kind of messed up when we like expect this person to be a perfect human being and be in public, and like, I don't know, just like all the machinations of it. Like, we've understood these people actually do have emotions, even if you're a royal person. You're not just like always super, you know, stoic and emotionless.
No, and the whole, like, I think people got tired of seeing royals like that, because they're like, if they're supposed to be putting on this show of you're just like you and me, why don't you get upset every now and then? Like, I mean, the queen isn't, in my opinion, supposed to take a political stance on anything, really. She very rarely has, and when she does, you wouldn't even know she had done it until it's like way too late. But even in private, I think, especially with Princess Diana, like, even in private, she wasn't allowed to be emotional. Like, public is one thing. Okay, I'll put on a show. But in private, you just want me to shut up and deal with it? Like, I mean, she was battling an eating disorder, for Christ's sakes, and everyone just told her to get over it.
Yeah.
Cool. That sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, I really do feel like that was one of the things that made a lot of that stuff change.
Oh, for sure.
Because before we'd be like, oh yeah, they're royal, and that's just how they are, and it's, you know,
what do you have to complain about? There's a dignity to it.
Yeah,
a dignity.
You know, there's this, and you know, again, it kind of, it's a generational thing too. It's like, I mean, Queen Elizabeth is like the perfect example, because like when she was growing up, like there was World War II, and London was being bombed.
Buckingham Palace got bombed.
Yeah, got bombed. So they felt like they had to be strong. And I mean, you know, what was that? The King's Speech, another perfect kind of example of this stuff. They had to put on this show for the country, and they had to be strong so that the country could prevail.
And in times of war, I don't think that's inappropriate. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to have leaders who want to, you know, show us, you know, the way in a certain way. Like, hey, we need to be strong. We need to be tough. We're a little tiny island that is constantly trying to be invaded by Nazis. We don't want that, because England is not very big. It's literally an island. And they had a lot of outside forces that were making them be like, yeah, maybe we should look a little bit more tough right now. You don't have a stutter anymore.
Yeah.
We can't afford you to have a stutter right now.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. I mean,
and that was her dad, right? That was her dad.
Yeah, that was her dad. I forget what George he was, but I think he might have been 5 or 6. He was one of the Georges. But he had an older brother who was epileptic, completely hidden from view. Completely hidden. Nobody knew he existed. I mean, there's some news articles of the whole family, including him. But when he started, you know, acting out or having fucking seizures, they were like, no, put him away. Put him away. He doesn't exist anymore. Or all of they actually touch on this in the most recent season of The Crown, where Helena Bonham Carter's Princess Margaret finds all of these cousins she didn't even know existed living in this special needs house. Based solely on the fact that they were born mentally challenged. And she even asked her mother at one point, she's like, would that have been me? Would you have just put me somewhere?
Yeah.
And her mom basically rationalizes it as the country needs to see us be strong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrific. It's
it is
terrible.
It is.
And they weren't even like third cousins or fourth cousins. This was like a first cousin. This was like one removed.
Yes.
And that's what they did. And it's
like a brother's child.
Yeah. John Kennedy's dad lobotomized one of his kids.
Lobotomized one of them. Yep.
Literally lobotomized his son's favorite sister.
For a very similar reason. And, to be honest, like, the fucked up thing is, like, he does it so that one of his kids could become president. And one of them became president, And one of them got close. Two of them got close. One got shot and killed. And the other one
died in a plane crash.
Yeah, one died in a plane. And if it weren't for Chappaquiddick, I mean, what's his name? Could have been president. Who knows, Teddy. So, crazy.
Whenever I've gone to Arlington Cemetery a few times and I cry, I just you can't help but just cry when you go to the Eternal Flame. It's just like, it's a thing. It hurts.
Yeah. So that was our side about royalty. So Paul passes the test, and we got all this cool stuff where like the Reverend Mother's like, oh, you inherit too much power. It's like, why? Because I'm a Duke's son? It's like, no, because you're Jessica's son. That's the real power.
You also have a mom, dude.
Yeah.
Who's kind of cooler. So
man, there's like I just feel like with Dune, there's so many levels, there's so many layers. Like there's a whole like the Jessica layer. I can't wait for that to like come out because like there's so many fucking
the vision he has of his mom, and she's got like the writings going over her face, and she's holding the baby, and it's just like, I know who that is.
Yeah,
it's gonna be so great. It's gonna be great. That baby is gonna do so many great things. Well, depending on who you talk to.
Exactly. And then she says, like, oh, so much potential wasted in a male. How could you do that? You thought that you could produce the Quasar Harash. And
Quasar
so,
Haderach.
Yeah. I love the ways that she says it.
Oh, yeah.
It's what's her name? Who's the actor for that? Charlotte Rampling. Yeah. She's brilliant. Yeah, so I really like this scene. This whole scene is great. And there's like this one of the best shots I've ever seen. Like when they're leaving, there's like we see all of them walking, and it's rained, and so like the ground is really wet, and they have these little cylindrical flying objects that provide light. So one of them is like lighting their path as they walk, and they're just talking about stuff. It's brilliant. It's so brilliant.
It's again like every shot is just
it's so beautiful.
It's so perfect.
Yeah. So then they take off, they fly away, but before that she's like, we have other prospects. So the way has been made for you on Arrakis, but it's going to be very dangerous. Bye-bye. They fly off.
Bye.
And then Jessica asks explain what the Quasar Harash is to Paul, and he's like, it's a mind. This is what the Bene Gesserit's been trying to do. We have been carefully interbreeding bloodlines to produce a mind that can bridge space and time, the past and the future. And that's again, it's so crazy. Like that's what the Bene Gesserit have been trying to do. They have a bigger plan, and they've been seeding these prophecies on different planets to like help if the person arrives who can become the one, that they'll be able to go there and ascend to power quickly.
Be the Messiah.
Yeah.
I really love how this scene is like filmed because they're standing really far. Again, they're standing really far away from each other and whispering, which kind of annoyed me, not gonna lie. But I like it because they're both shrouded in like mist and shit, and they're both not really sure she's very unsure of whether or not Paul is the one. Mm-hmm. And he is learning a lot about his mom and about the Bene Gesserit he was not aware of. So they're both kind of like shrouded in like mystery and shit. And I loved how it was filmed. It was really, really good.
It's really cool because like he like comes out of the mist. Mm-hmm. Paul comes out of the mist and he's talking to like
a creepy little emo kid.
You think that I'm the one? It's like you don't understand. You don't understand what we. Yeah, the Bene Gesserit stuff is crazy. It is crazy. Like what they're up to. Like
they're insane. Up to some dark shit.
They're up to some crazy shit. It's totally crazy. Totally insane.
I wonder if they will get into Jessica's lineage because that is very.
I think that they have to. I think that they have to. Yeah, it is disturbing. But again, that's what's so crazy about the Bene Gesserit. They had a plan. There's a purposeful reason why the Bene Gesserit chose Jessica to be with Duke Leto. It was not a mistake.
Nothing that happens with the Bene Gesserit is a mistake, except for when Jessica went her own way. Yes. I feel like that was the one thing that they were like, what?
They were not
like, okay, rewrite everything. Backspace.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that Paul even came to term, the fact that he was even born, given how horrifically dangerous this world is for just regular people, and you'll see how dangerous it is for a pregnant woman, is just the fact that they allowed him to come to term was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that they didn't punish her for it.
I think the Gom Jabbar would have been her punishment.
Just instant death.
That would have been, I think that would have been her punishment. And by extension, Leto's too. Yeah.
I wonder what kind of fucked up shit the Bene Gesserit does to people that they don't like. I feel like there's something really messed up that we could see them do to somebody. But there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay, so that was a really cool sequence. So then the Atreides, they're packing up their stuff and they're going to Arrakis. We get this kind of like very contemplative sequence where they're packing up the things. Paul is like just kind of hanging out on the planet for the last time. He puts his hand in some water, looks at the sunset, and then they're off to Arrakis. And I love this scene where they arrive on Arrakis. It's just so brilliant. It's just so brilliant. Like we see the ships come, we see the massive ship that transports them, and we see all the little ships coming out of it descend on the planet. There's this really great shot where we see them like basically it's like someone looking up at the ship, and they're like looking up in the sun, so it's really overexposed. We see these really big ships coming down over the sun, and then you see like the ships casting a shadow across a bunch of people. These people coming to like kind of greet them, and then they arrive, and like Lady Jessica's wearing this crazy outfit. I mean, that outfit was like unbelievable.
That was intense. That was an intense outfit. As a complete departure from what we've seen her already wear. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
And it's like she has to have two people holding her train, like, right? Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah,
it's like on a wedding dress. Yeah, train on it. Yeah. So there's two people holding the train on her dress, and like, and she's like wearing a shawl or whatever, and she's got like this. I don't know. She's wearing like jewelry over her face. This is like hella cool. It's like really fucking cool. So then they arrive there, and then the people start calling them the Lisan al Gaib. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then Paul, they meet with whatever the guys, the Mentat guy, and he's like, oh yeah, Dufir. Yeah, Dufir, and he's like, oh yeah, my advanced team is like, we're taking over the city, and we've almost done it. Blah blah blah. And then Paul's like, oh, what's the Lisan al Gaib? What does that mean? And Jessica explains like, oh, it means the voice from the outer world. It's basically their word for Messiah. And so they see you, and they see like a sign of the Messiah coming, and that the change is going to happen. And it means that the Bene Gesserit have been seeding prophecies on this planet. So again, this is another crazy, brilliant thing. So like, the Bene Gesserit are putting in the minds of local populations in different places of these prophecies. They're just putting them in their head. They're not real. you know,
Or
but someone,
are they?
yeah, or are they? But the Bene Gesserits are like putting it out there so that people will believe that these things are real and happening. And Paul has this great lines like he says, "Oh well, they see what they've been told to see," basically, which is like they've been told these prophecies, and so they're just going to believe what they've been told when things kind of line up in a way. And then we see like the first shot of them flying in the Thopters.
I like the Thopters.
So Thopters are like basically the aircraft in this universe. It's really cool. And so Thopter is something that Da Vinci invented. The idea of it, at least. I mean, he never created
fucking
a Thopter.
Da Vinci, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I saw this thing where they actually created a Thopter based on his design, and it worked. I mean, it works differently than it had really big wings, but yeah, they just flapped and it flew. It's really cool.
Like a grasshopper, not a grasshopper, a dragonfly.
Yeah, dragonfly.
I was like, that's pretty cool. Actually, because Ryan's like a speed freak and loves anything with a motor, and he was like, "Oh, I want one of those." He didn't care about anything else in the movie, basically.
Yeah.
He was like, "I want one of those," and I'm like,
It's really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool. So yeah, so then they get like the tour. They get brought to this city where they're going to stay. And the city's kind of protected by the shield wall so the worms don't get into it. And then we get the scene with the housekeeper. So, do you want to talk about the scene with the housekeeper? Like, what your reaction was? Because,
so basically Jessica's interviewing housekeepers, and there's all these, like, Fremen ladies, like, line up. Actually, I'm not sure if they're all Fremen, but they're all lined up, basically. And, you know, she basically is like, comes to this one lady. She's like, okay, you all can leave now. Basically, you assume she's made her choice. Mm-hmm. But this turns into an interrogation because Jessica is not stupid. And she uses like the Atreides, like not sign language, more like just like hand. I guess you could call it sign language. She uses the Atreides like sign language to basically tell her guard, shit might go down. And be ready. And she tells the lady, like, you know, I know you're Fremen and I know you have a knife. Hand it over, basically. And the lady she's not really embarrassed, but she's like, look, it's not what you think. I'm pure of heart. She takes out the crysknife and she's like, this is what it is. And the crysknife is basically made from the tooth of a sandworm. It's like super pretty. It's kind of a big deal. They're usually passed down. They're like heirlooms because they never like really crack or anything like that. They're cool. They're badass. You want one. And suddenly, in the mid-sentence, she lets out a moan that is very intense. And I'm not going to recreate it because there are people in the house. And it's just intense. And I'm sure it's going to be memed because I wanted to meme. Meme meat. But she's super excited because she believes that Jessica is another sign that the Lisan al-Gaib is here. And this is a gift, like from my people to yours. Like this is for you. And but yeah, it was very intense. She was very excited.
It was very intense. It's a very strong choice. But like, so one of the things I really like about, so again, when we're talking about, you know, it's hard to not have these comparisons with like Star Wars and other shit like that.
Of course.
What I like is it presents the religion and the mythology as being real.
Yes, very much so.
This scene really underscores the reality of it. Like it's not just like, oh, you have the Force and that's really cool. It's like, no, this is religion. This is like, it would be like if you saw, if it was like there was something in the Bible that said, okay, this is going to happen, and then Jesus comes back, and then you meet the person in person who's like supposed to be the bringer of the Messiah, a sign of the Messiah.
It's like a hardcore Catholic meeting the Virgin Mary. Like that is what this is. She is meeting the Virgin Mary. And it's intense. And I mean, I'm not religious, but maybe if I was a Catholic and I met the Virgin Mary, I'd be like, too. Yeah. But so it really does bring home the fact that faith is very, very, very important to the Fremen. And not just faith, but the signs, the mythology, the prophecy behind it all. Like they believe it. Like
they believe it.
It's not just willy-nilly. It's you're all in or not.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean that's really what it underscores in this scene is like they really strongly believe that this is a sign of the coming of a Messiah or something, and some things that are going to change Arrakis for the good. This person comes. So very, very intense scene. So the next scene, so Paul is like, he's on YouTube again, he's watching this thing, and they're talking about like sandworms and these cute little desert mouse and the Seaches. I think Seaches is what they call it, which is like where the Fremen live. It's kind of, I guess it's like underground, right?
Yeah, it's like an underground like,
city
village, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So while he's learning about that, he gets attacked by this this tiny hunter seeker thing, which is this like small thopter looking thing that's like size. It's like a hummingbird size, but it has a needle on it that'll just gonna flatten you and kill you, basically. I had sort of like, I was a little confused by what happened in this scene the first time I saw it, and I think I understand it a bit more. But it basically, Paul kind of hides from it behind his the little hologram, and then it kind of flies at him, but I guess because he's really still, it doesn't actually harm him. It doesn't know that he's there. And then said housekeeper opens the door, and then the hunter seeker goes at her, and he like catches it with his hand.
Yeah, he like smashes it, I think, against like the doorway or something like that. But I'm pretty sure its vision is based on movement, and it was sensing that he was around in that room at the time. Which again is just kind of like, how did they know he was actually going to be in that room? But that's what brings about all the uproar, is that maybe they didn't know he was going to be in that exact room, but there could be other hunter seekers around. Yeah. And that's when they find like the dead guy, and like, I don't know, that kind of confused me too. I'm like, did they kill him, or did he die behind the wall by accident? It's very
so what's his name? I forget, what was the guy's name again? Their Memtat?
Thufar.
So Thufar says that the guy had been in the wall for 2 weeks. So yeah, that was so there was a Harkonnen guy that they left, basically a Harkonnen spy that they left as a way to sabotage them and try and do an assassination. So that guy then planted the hunter seeker to assassinate whoever was going to be in that room. So basically it was done by the Harkonnen. They had been in there and wait for weeks. That's kind of what they probably didn't know for sure, but they knew someone royal was going to be in there, so they just tried to kill him that way.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was it was a designated royal hotspot of some kind. Yeah. But yeah, no, he's dead.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when you go into a house, right? So someone's going to get the master bedroom.
Oh, of course.
Right, like like if you're going to get someone, you're going to get the person in the master bedroom.
Oh yeah.
Like that's going to be the highest. You're not going to put your servant in the master bedroom, basically, is kind of the idea. Anyway, so then we get this really cool, so then we get that scene with the weird creature thing on Getty Prime, whatever that thing was. It's like a spider mixed with a human. I don't know what it was, but that was very creepy, very, very, very weird. And yeah, it had human hands, so it had 8 little human hands.
So
it was like a spider.
I was actually thinking, I was like, they were talking, or Dr. Yue talks at one point about how they were taking his wife apart and putting her back together again. I'm like, is that his wife? Because it's got human hands and a human face. I was just like, I mean, it might not be. It was probably just put in the movie to be super creepy. But a part of me can see the Baron just like doing something really fucked up.
Exactly. That's the implication, right? Is like, oh, I'll give you your wife, and now she's a spider, or she's a fly, or something. We spliced her. We chopped her head off, and then we spliced her with some creepy insect. I think that's absolutely the implication, right? They do some really messed up stuff.
They do, and I would not put it past them to do that to Dr. Yue's wife. I don't think we actually find out what happens to her in the book anyway. I think we're led to believe she's just murdered. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. Like, I bet that's Dr. Yue's wife.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, that's our pet. Our pet. It's like the creature has to leave. That's what the Reverend Mother says.
Yeah, like it can understand. Like it understands what they're saying. Mm-hmm. It could again that could just be like a little backup security thing. Like that could just be what it is because it can understand human speech. Mm-hmm. Or it was a person. Yeah, and she's like, leave us. She uses the voice on it, and then it just walks, scurries
away. It's like it understands.
Yeah, she's like, don't fuck with me. It knows what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the Reverend Mother basically says, okay, the Emperor is fine with you killing the Atreides. And then I love this line. She's like, so on that topic, so we don't care about Duke Leto at all. I just love that. She just like, we don't care about. You can kill him. You can do whatever. You can turn him into a little spider thing. Do whatever you want to him, but do not mess with Jessica, and by extension, do not mess with Paul. And then Baron Harkonnen agrees. He's like, okay, I give you my word that I will not harm Jessica or Paul.
I won't hurt them.
I won't hurt them. And then the Reverend Mother takes off. I just love that. I just love like how that just shows you like this is where the real power lies in this world. Like they literally say, we don't give a shit about Leto, even though he's like a super powerful guy, and
he's filled his purpose. He's done what they needed him to do.
Yeah,
he procreated with a Bene Gesserit. That's what he, as far as they're concerned,
he's done.
He's done.
Yeah,
he has served his purpose.
But yeah, so I love that. It's so subtle, but it's like that's where the real power is in this universe. But so then she takes off, and then Peter DeVere is like, oh, but you can't let them live. Like it could be a problem. He's like, no, they're not going to live. None of them are going to live. I'm not going to kill them, but Arrakis is Arrakis. Like it's a very dangerous place, and if people just get left somewhere, they get eaten by a worm. Well, they get eaten by a worm.
Or if they die from exposure, whoops, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then he has this great, the desert takes the weak. I love this. He gets so many good lines in this movie.
He really does.
He gets so many
really
good lines.
just goes for it. Again, like this is a character that knows exactly who and what he is.
Yeah.
And he makes no bones about it. He is fine.
Not at all. Yeah.
He's out there floating his best life. You know what I mean? Like
he is.
He's just out there.
My desert, my Arrakis, my Dune. I love that. I love that shit.
Dune.
My Dune.
Yeah, because even
even
his mentat is just like, you want to go against what the Bene Gesserit said? Like, sir.
Exactly.
We can't.
You promised the witch.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Baron. He's just like, there's always a way around shit. Like, always.
Exactly. Yeah. You just gotta think ahead. Just gotta think ahead, and you can.
He's already thinking like 20 steps ahead.
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, back on Arrakis. So Duncan comes back, and he's brought Stilgar with him, and so then they have a meeting. We meet Stilgar, who's played by Javier Bardem.
Yeah, he is.
This is a really fun scene. Yeah. This is a fun scene. So he shows up. He has a Chris knife. They're like trying to disarm him, but he's like, no, I'm not leaving my knife behind. And then he shows up and he just like spits on the table.
Well, like prior to this, Leto does like give him the respect of allowing him to keep his knife, and he introduces himself and he's like, hey, I've heard you guys are wicked cool, and you didn't kill my best fighter, so that's pretty chill of you, man. Like, hey.
And Leto's trying to create an alliance.
Yeah, he's being very diplomatic and very like welcoming, for sure. So then Stilgar pops a big old loogie.
And so he spits on the table. And then they're like, what the fuck? But then, Tekken like, oh, no. Like, that's a sign of respect. Like, thank you for the gift of your body's moisture. And then he hawks a loogie too. And then Leto's like, okay.
Yeah, what if it wasn't though? What if him and Idaho were just fucking with each other? Like...
Well, if he was, that would be a really great way to turn that situation from bad to good.
That's true.
To be honest. But yeah, so that was really funny. That was probably like the funniest thing in the movie. I really like that. And then, it doesn't, so like they're starting this relationship with the Fremen. It doesn't go exactly as well as they want at first, but there's something starting. And then, right before Stilgar leaves, he says to Paul, like, oh, I've seen your face before.
Yeah, he says it in Fremen, which I think is very poignant, because I think that was his way of like speaking to just Paul, and if he is the one, he will understand me. He will know what I am saying. Yes. And exactly. I just love the way Javier Bardem like plays. What a small scene, but what an impact is just because love Stilgar. Yeah. And real man.
This is the thing that I love so much too about having a film with all these diverse kind of characters is like you know, they say, they're just saying, like, there's not small parts, there's small actors. And great actors can make an impact in any scene. And there's just so many great actors, and they all make an impact because they're all really good at what they do, and they just ferociously consume every scene that they're in, and they're always giving their best, and it's amazing. Yeah, that's just what's so great about this. Like, there's so much stuff there. There's so much to grab onto.
What's crazy is that every single actor in this scene is a leading man.
Yeah,
there are no supporting actors in this scene. These are all leading men sharing the screen, leading actors sharing the screen, and all just one's not better than the other. Like, they're all equally just as good, and they're all just that character in that moment. And it's so perfect. And I just love that last look Stilgar gives Paul, where he's just like, I recognize you. This is trippy for me too. And it's just, I think it's also one of those ways for the Fremen to feed the signs too. If he is the one, again, he will know what I am saying. If he doesn't, then I guess you shit out of luck. But yeah, and I just love that when Stilgar leaves, he's like, that's all I have to say. Bye.
yeah, he just walks out. He's like, he just leaves.
But again, it's that first olive branch of like, hey, like, if we go into your territory, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not going to hassle you. You don't need to hassle me. I'm not. Leto makes it very clear, I am not the Harkonnen.
Yes.
If I was, you would be dead.
Yes, I'm trying to make an alliance with you.
Exactly.
So then the next scene, they meet another great performance. The Judge of the Change, Liet Kynes, who's played by Sharon Duncan Brewster. This is incredible. Like, and I know this is different from the book. In the book, it was a guy. Yeah. I know, and also in other interpretations, like, they've made the Fremen, like, they've depicted the Fremen as like basically being white. And in this film, they're more either black or, you know, like Javier Bardem is like Hispanic. So they
people of color.
Yeah, they're basically people of color of one shade or another.
Exactly.
You could say, which I think is a good choice. I think it makes sense. I mean, on a desert planet where it's really sunny, you're probably not going to be super
they wouldn't all be Anglo-Saxon looking Celtic white guys. Like, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Just to me personally, it makes no sense.
Like
they would not be these freaking Viking people with like flowing blonde hair and shit. Like it's just it just makes no sense. So
it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah,
so
and I know some people were kind of pissed about the gender swapping or making Liet Kynes a male versus female. I don't really think it matters. Personally, the character still fulfills the purpose of what the character was meant to do.
Totally, and this performance is incredible. Incredible.
She's actually a minor character in the show called Sex Education. She plays the parent of one of the main characters. She has a very small part, but like, I recognized her. That's one of those other instances of this movie having really good supporting characters, really and good. Them just. I believe she's Liet Kynes. I believe
she kills it.
Change. Like, I think she's a badass. I think I like that this is a character that is a person of two worlds. She's like, I'm welcome in both Village and Siege. Like, I am that guy.
Yeah,
that's badass.
Yeah. She's really cool.
Because so far, the only other person who could be that is Duncan Idaho, and we know how badass he is.
Yeah, and just on that, like, Duncan talked about, like, in order to find the Fremen, he was like out in the desert for a long time, and then he had to fight a guy to the death. He fights a guy to the death. He's like, yeah, it was the strongest dude I've ever fought in my life.
He's like, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And like, I love that he's like, I was searching for them for weeks, and they had been watching me the whole time, and I didn't know they were there.
Exactly. Yeah. Desert power.
Desert power, babe.
So then they're talking, and basically she's going to show them the spice harvesting fields and stuff, just to give them, you know, an idea of what the deal is. And then we have this great exchange between her and Paul. She's really impressed by his ability to wear a still suit. He wears it like a native, even though he's never worn it before. And then she kind of says this thing in the Fremen language: "He shall know your ways as though born to them," which is part of the prophecy. And it's just stuff like this is so brilliant, because it's just like, it makes the world feel really real.
It really, really does. And again, like the mythology, the prophecy is taken very. She's not even like a Fremen born, you know what I mean? Like she just believes it though, and she
really
knows
does.
how powerful the prophecy is. She drank the Kool-Aid at some point.
Yeah,
And I love it again. If he is the one, he will know what my words are. He will know what I mean. And he does. He gets it.
He
He's
does.
just like,
Yeah.
why? And he even
Are you Fremen?
even Timothy Chalamet is kind of plays it as if, why do I know what she's saying? Is what she's saying what she's thinking? Or is it what she's actually saying? It's like, again, that psychic thing.
Yeah.
But I really, really like.
Yeah, it's cool. And then we get this brilliant sequence where we see them like, see the spice harvester. So they're flying in the thopters. They see the spice harvester, and they talk about like, oh, well, we're looking for worm sign, and it's like when a worm gets close, it gets closer to the surface when it's going to attack, and you can see the sand kind of, jutting. And so they see a worm coming. They kind of warn the ship that the worm is coming. And so basically their procedure is, if a worm's coming at the spice harvester, we're going to get another ship to pick it up and fly it away so it doesn't get attacked by the worm at the last second. So they're watching them do this procedure. The ship that's supposed to capture and pick up the spice harvester fails. One of its it's like a 4-point of contact kind of like capturing system. One of them doesn't work, so they can't pick up the ship. So that's a problem. So now they have to evacuate everybody. So it's like Paul, Gurney, and Leto are flying in the Thopter. They're like, okay, we have to do an emergency evac mission right now. So they fly down to go pick everyone up. Paul is like on the front line of like, getting these people to evacuate. And we get this great moment where they really do it really well when he first steps foot out in the sand dunes where the spice is flowing, as it were.
He gets a little contact high.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He gets really high. And he
gets a dose.
Yeah. So this is like his first.
He's tripping.
Some people have said like, oh, he was microdosing on it. I think it's probably maybe a little bit more than microdose.
Because this is pure, you know what I mean? Like this isn't like processed shit. This is straight from the source,
Straight from the source.
The worms kicking this shit up and like the wind and everything, and he's just like, his eyes starts opening.
His third eye is opening, and so he's just like blown away. And this, it's really brilliant because like they really make an emphasis of like when he first steps on the sand in the still suit for the first time. It's like you can tell he's having this deja vu experience. Like he's always dreamed about this moment, and then it's happened, and then he picks up the sand, and then all of the spices in his eyes is just, he's taking it in, and he's having visions, and he's hearing these voices, probably the voices of his ancestors, right, from the Bene Gesserit, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely, probably, because they're like, you're here. Like,
yeah.
This was what was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And it also kind of makes you wonder if like they're seeing time in a very non-linear way, if that makes any sense, because they can see the past, present, and future, and that's what he is supposed to eventually be able to evolve into being.
Bridge.
To bridge basically the gap, the divide, as it were. And he gets, what I like is that it stops being dreams and this is a vision that he has to interpret because it's very intense.
Yeah, totally. So he's tripping out and they're trying to evacuate and they're like, where's Paul? Of
course, where the fuck is Paul?
Yeah, and Gurney's like, oh shit. And so he goes to capture Paul and take him. He grabs Paul up and they are getting the hell out of there. And they barely make it back onto the Thopter, and the Thopter flies off. And like this is a great shot. Like there's a shot of like they're Gurney's holding him, but he's looking down, and you can see the worm eating that ship, eating the spice harvester, and it just
makes you that these are not tiny worms, honey. These are massive monsters, and it's wild when you really see how big like that mouth is. It's like
Yeah, and you just see it consume this huge spice harvester. It just consumes it. And because like before they were talking about, they can be up to 400 meters long. So they're like, that's Godzilla.
Yeah.
That's straight up like a Godzilla link. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. And then again, just to like top off this perfect scene, so like then Liet Kynes like says the prayer to Shai Hulud, just bless the maker and his water, bless the coming and going of him. May his passage cleanse the world. May he keep the world for his people. And it's just like, again, it's perfect. It's just like, wow, you know, this thing, this, you know, epic monster is part of the faith of these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's everything about the planet is part of their faith. Every single like last part of it, including the giant massive sandworms that will literally swallow a village, is part of their faith. You know, that is their master. That is their overseer. That is the one, not the one. Paul is one. But
Shai Hulud.
Like that's them. You wouldn't have spice without the sandworms.
Yeah, absolutely. So then Paul has this discussion with like the Dr. Yue. They basically kind of check him out. He's like, oh, spice, you know, it's a psychochemical or whatever.
You got high, is what he says.
Yeah, he's like, you got high.
Sometimes I get high.
And then, but Paul's like, no, I saw visions. I saw the future. And some of it was really clear. Some of it wasn't super clear. But what I know is that someone's going to hand me a blade, and that's going to be really important. That person's going to be like my friend, and I know that you're pregnant.
Oh, by the way, I know you're pregnant.
Yeah. And she's like, how do you, what? Like, I don't even know that. Anyway, so yeah, he's coming into his power now. So then, so this next scene, this is probably my favorite scene in the whole film, basically. I mean, there's a lot, but so then we get Salusa Secundus, the Imperial Army planet. So this is fucking insane.
This is so in a way, a lot of it was unnecessary, but all of it mattered.
Yeah.
Every single I can't even you can't even imitate it. Like the throat singing.
The throat singing.
Who was that? The sound editor? Was that Hans Zimmer? Who was just like, you know what we need? We need throat singing.
We need throat singing.
Because what has not been in a movie? Throat singing.
Throat singing.
I'm just throwing it out there. You can send it back, but I think we need throat singing.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah, what I really like he talked about because like Hans Zimmer really, really wanted to do this film. Like he turned down doing Tenet for this.
Yeah, he turned down his bro.
His
Nolan bro.
He turned down his Nolan bro.
To do Dune, and I'm so happy that he did.
Because you can tell he had some really specific ideas about a lot of stuff. And one of the things he talked about was like using sounds that are totally different, right? Instead of using these like human sounds, use something that feels alien or sounds totally different. And this is like a perfect example of that. Like this throat singing, you're like, the fuck? You're just
you know what's crazy is that it harkened back to me, Final Destination, the opera scene. Let's do something that does sound alien. Let's do something that's so weird but very beautiful at the same time, to just really immerse people in the fact that this is a different culture we are witnessing. And it really reminded me of that. And the choices in this movie were so good. I'm so proud. I'm proud of these people.
Yeah.
I really
they really did this story justice, and they really it's just brilliant, like the way that they thought of all of the ways to like depict these really interesting ideas in a sci-fi way,
and individual cultures in different ways too. Like no two cultures are the same at all, and we have a lot going on. We have got Harkonnen, we got Atreides, we got Fremen, we got the Sardaukar, we got the people from the Emperor coming, like we got the Bene Gesserit. There's so much. There's so many. This is such a melting pot, and it's so interesting, and it's just so cool. And I feel like they did cut corners with a couple of things, but only because they're saving it. I feel like they're saving a lot of stuff because again, they want people to come back for part 2.
Yeah, part 2 is going to be like insane.
I mean, here's my money, take it.
Yeah, right. It's like,
can I make this go any faster?
Yeah, it's like we can already foresee like how crazy things are. This is just the ramp up. Like we're going up.
They even tease it at the end of the movie. Like, this is just the beginning. Wink,
yeah,
wink.
exactly. Wink, wink. Yeah, exactly. They really wink at us hard.
When she said that, I looked at Ryan. I was like, that son of a bitch. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
And
after we see someone riding a worm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's fucking awesome.
We will get to that.
Yeah. So this planet, Seleucus Secundus, it always rains. So unlike it's kind of, unlike Arrakis, which is a desert planet, this is a rain planet. And man, just like everything about this. So like one of the first shots we see the planet, then we see this fucking like this wide shot of their ships and then all of their army about to get ready to go and invade Arrakis. And then we see the dude up there throat singing, and he's like, and then we see that they have these people who are, I guess, their fallen enemies, crucified upside down, and then they are capturing the rainwater and the blood, and they are using that to bless their soldiers before they leave for battle.
Yeah, they're doing like some blood ceremony shit.
It's like, what? Just like,
I don't remember that being in the book. I don't think it was. I think that's that might be an original idea, and I'm totally fine with it. And I think Frank Herbert would be totally fine with it.
It is so brilliant. And so this is they call themselves the Blades of the Emperor. They are like the personal army of the Emperor. And so these are, again, they're basically trained for life to fight.
Yeah, they live to serve, and they are fine with it.
Yeah, and what's cool too is the language, the way they speak. This like Germanic.
Totally. I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. Like, yeah, and I like that. Like, the Mentat isn't speaking his language, but he's so smart. He knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
But and he says we're only sending 3 battalions. That's it. That's all they're sending. That's all they need. 3 I don't know how many dudes are in 3 battalions, but that's all that they need.
Yeah.
And it's just like, because they are that good
elite
at what they do.
They're super elite.
Because they also are sending the Harkonnen soldiers in there too.
They do.
So they only need 3 battalions, I guess, but that's they probably could have done this with 1. Like,
yeah. They also, so yeah, as a part of that conversation, they're like, why do you need us? You guys outnumber the Atreides. He's like, well, basically they want to make sure. And they're like, well, yeah, they're really well trained. They have Duncan Idaho and Gurney Alec. He's like, oh, we don't care. We're the blades of the,
It's like if Klingons had a cold.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it would sound like.
Yeah, exactly. I love it though. I love these. This is just so brilliant. That sequence to me was just like perfect. It's like these guys are from a totally different world. They are trained from birth to kill. They are insane. I mean, they are insane. When you see, like, all I need to see is someone, first off, if you crucify someone, that's bad enough. You crucify someone upside down, that's really crazy.
But then you're taking their blood.
You're taking their blood. And you're blessing your soldiers as they leave for battle. Okay, dude. You got me. I'm in. I'm sold on this.
I'm sold too. Their armor's pretty badass too. They look really badass.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. And it's just, everything's so brilliant about it. You get the scale of their army. You get a sense of how dedicated and devoted they are. It's, there's a religious aspect to it. They don't have to say it, but when you see it, you're like, okay, there's some kind of like, this is a holy war kind of a thing, It's more than just, okay, we're going to go. They're not soldiers of fortune. They're not mercenaries. They are more dedicated than that. It's on a different level.
Yeah, this is an extreme level for sure.
Yeah, it's super extreme. Oh man. Okay, so then after that, we're like, okay, the invasion's coming, right? So then we get some scenes with like Jessica and Leto. They're like going to bed with each other. They get a sleeping pill from the good doctor. But it seems like he's not going to take it. Leto's not going to take it. So then that night, like, we see some guards get taken out by someone, and then Leto wakes up and it's like super dark. It's like, what the hell's going on? He calls for security. No one answers. He sees that their housekeeper has been killed, and then someone like shoots this hunter seeker kind of thing at him, and it paralyzes him. And we see that the traitor is Dr. Yue. And he's like, yeah, I had to betray you because they're doing something to my wife. I have to save her. And then he downs their shield, and then the invasion begins. And this invasion sequence is also like bazonkers. Like it's
brutal.
It is
they
brutal
are
and
so unprepared.
Yeah. They're done. Yeah. So we see Gurney, and like someone wakes up Gurney like, dude, our shields are down. They're like, what? And they come out running, and they just see like, I mean, it's a massacre, right? Basically. There's this really cool stuff. Like, again, like the technology and stuff is so interesting and cool in this film because you see their ships get bombed, but like the way the bomb works is the bomb drops and then it kind of slows down to penetrate the shield, and then it keeps going. So their ships are being bombed and blown up and destroyed. They are then also being like invaded by a force. And we see these. It's really cool the way that those ships work because, like, the ships they have like kind of hot air balloons or something.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That there was like some. It wasn't just like there's some hot air balloon technology going on in there. I wonder if it's just because of the climate of the planet that maybe it works better because I think the sand is what fucks up the technology a lot of the time. It grinds the gears and everything. So I wonder if they use hot air just because it gets less clogged or whatever.
It seems like it because I totally think you're right about that because like the Thopters just go like this.
Yeah, they can get it out.
So like if it seems like engines don't really work. Once you get to a certain level, there's too much sand and the engines just fail. So you need some kind of other like you said, hot air balloon technology to float and fly. And so then we see Gurney and them, they go into battle and they kill a bunch of people.
And can I just say, I love the bagpipes.
Yes.
The bagpipes. Like, I feel like with a lot of movies, the bad guys have like the Imperial March for like the Empire in Star Wars, or like the other music they use for Luke. I only remember the Imperial March. But like for like the Atreides, they got kind of like some bagpipe action go. There's even one guy that plays it when they first arrive. He plays the bagpipe, but it's not traditional like Gaelic or Scottish music. It's something totally different that sounds so weird coming out of a bagpipe because you're expecting something Scottish and it's not. And like when Gurney's like charging, he's like, okay, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go out like this, and you hear that bagpipe.
Yeah, you hear the bagpipe.
It's so
cool.
Good.
Yeah, so this isn't. It's not like Last of the Mohicans, but it hits you.
But it still hits you. It still hits you. It gives you that same kind of like. Yeah.
It's cool because like he's creating these kind of motif relations, right? So like they're kind of like Scottish people, basically the Atreides.
If not the Atreides, definitely Gurney. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's got kind of like that Highlander, no bullshit kind of mentality thing, and it just again, Josh Brolin, you're just so wonderful.
Yeah.
I like it here with Thanos though.
Yeah, I know.
It was kind of hard. I was like, I just keep picturing Thanos. It's like, what the fuck?
Thanos.
He's been Thanos for the last like 6 years. So it's hard. But yeah, I digress.
So then we see like Paul and Jessica get captured by some Harkonnen, and they they're gonna take him to die. Then we get this really cool sequence of fucking Duncan Idaho killing a bunch of people. So he takes on like 3 or 4 Sardaukar, takes them out in a really cool fashion, and then he fights a bunch of Harkonnen, and so he takes on like 3 or 4 guys. They all get killed.
And then there's that one guy who's just like, and he's just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And he's like, does that awesome like.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. That's what I was talking about. Like that was he hits this. He's holding one sword like this, like vertical. Like he's holding one sword like this, and he goes like, "I'll kill you." I love that. That was just perfect. That was so perfect.
Yeah, he kind of points at him too. I think at one point, and I love that they're just like, "Yeah, no, ma'am." Like,
and it's not like one of them. There's like 4 of them just walked away.
They're all.
He gets to the top.
I think in their minds too. It's like, okay, if he gets on the ship, he's probably gonna get shot down. But I don't want to be the guy to fight him. I don't want to. Each other too, kind of like, are you going? No, I'm not going.
And his escape in the Thopter is really brilliant.
Oh, it's a great,
I love that
great
sequence.
Scene.
Because, I love that sequence.
If you, especially if you haven't read the books, you're just kind of like, there's a they just took out Leto. Like, there's a genuine possibility that nobody is safe. So, like, the suspense is very, very good. but like he's just such a badass. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, the sequence is brilliant. So he escapes. We see Jessica and Paul are like on the ship. We then see another shot I really like is when the Harkonnen return. So we see all of them, and there's this one shot where we see a bunch of the Harkonnen and the Baron, and he's like floating in the middle of them. Yeah, they're all just
I
marching.
loved that because he is gonna get his hands dirty. He is there with the invasion. The invasion hasn't even ended.
It's not over.
It's not even over. And he comes floating down and it's his fat ass and he's just like, yeah, I'm ready. Yes. Let's do this. I can't lift a finger, my fat little fucking fingers to like do anything else, but I can strike terror. Like the invasion's still going on and he's hungry for dinner. It's just like, what the fuck, you fucking piece of shit.
And that's basically why he came, right? He came to go and eat some food.
Yeah. Just like, coming back to my house, because I'm assuming that was where he lived when he was. Did he live on planet? I can't remember if the Baron actually lived on planet or if he lived on Getty Prime. But it doesn't really matter. He's a piece of shit.
He's there now.
He's there now, and you can't get rid of him. He's like a freaking parasite.
So on this thopter where they're gonna dump him off, Jessica's kind of like communicating with Paul, with sign language. And she's basically like, oh, this one guy, he's deaf. So basically, I guess can't use a voice on him. And so Paul tries to use a voice. It doesn't work the first time. And she's like, you have to control your pitch. So then he tries it a second time and it works. And he gets the guy to like remove Jessica's gag. He removes Jessica's gag and she's just like...
She is ready. She
is ready.
She was already like had her lips ready for it, and it was just like there's no hesitation whatsoever at all.
She's like, kill him, and immediately kill. So this is another thing, again, the voice, we think of the Jedi mind trick, right? What makes this different, right, is like, even though this is a PG-13 movie, like they go immediately into the dark shit. Mm-hmm. Kill this guy, kill yourself, just doing really messed up stuff. We never really see that in Star Wars for reasons that make sense. But like, and this, it's just super creepy too. It's super creepy the way that it sounds when she does the voice. It's super creepy.
Yeah, especially
give me the knife.
Yeah, it's just so disturbing. It really is. And honestly, I kind of wish it was a little bit more violent. I kind of wish it had been just a little bit more bloody. I get why it wasn't, but like, I would have liked to have seen just a little more blood. Just a little bit.
So Jessica and Paul escape. And they also, Dr. Yue, it's kind of interesting because like Dr. Yue, he kind of leaves some stuff to help them out pretty much.
He doesn't feel good about his portrayal. He really, really doesn't.
He doesn't. And, we don't, so this is a thing that people were kind of unhappy about, but like a reason why it's so big that he portrays them is like, if we don't get into it in the film, but in the book, they talk about like, this is imperial conditioning, where they condition a lot of their subjects so that they can't betray them. But he somehow breaks the imperial conditioning with the help of the Baron to then betray the Atreides. But we don't really get into that. I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's almost like the betrayal, we know it's coming, right?
Yeah.
We just know it's coming, and it's just a question of what happens at the end of the betrayal. Who's going to be alive? Mm-hmm. So they're able to get away and escape. There's this really great wide shot of like them looking at what happened in the invasion. They see the city totally taken over and destroyed and all the smoke and stuff. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. And it kind of sets in that like everybody's dead.
Everybody's
dead.
Exactly. Everyone's dead. And we're in the middle of the desert with nothing. They don't have still suits.
Yeah. And the thopter doesn't work anymore. I think you're led to believe that the, Harkonnen back home somehow deactivated it or whatever it was. They can't use the thopter anymore.
They can't use the thopter. Yeah.
And they probably shouldn't. It'd probably be more easy to track them that way.
Yeah. So then we see Leto, what happened to him. So he's naked, straight up butt naked. Like they put him in a chair at this table and it's just so fucked up. They're just like on top of like, not only is everyone dead, but we're going to humiliate you.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh yeah, and one thing I sort of forgot to mention was like, so Dr. Yue like gives him this like fake tooth that has poison in it, so that he can like He's like, oh, if you choose your moment wisely, your last breath you can also kill the Baron and everyone else. So he gets in the situation where, and then Dr. Yue is like, oh, can you free my wife? He's like, yeah, I'd said that I'd free her from her agony, and I'll free you too. And he chops his freaking head off. Like the Baron chops his head off.
Yeah, well, after he's eaten dinner, like his fingers are probably still sticky and shit. Like I thought of that scene from like the second Lord of the Rings movie when he's the Steward of Gondor, just like shoving, like, oh, it's so gross.
The evil eating, yeah.
The evil eating. It's a thing. It's a trope in movies. Yeah. Evil eating is a thing.
Yeah.
And like his fingers are probably also gross. He just that's when he like kind of gets up, kind of like a snake, and he just kind of like glides over.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, yeah, okay. Boom, just cuts it. Not even with like a sword. He saws his head off with a knife.
Yeah.
With a knife. And then just like
he tosses it.
Lets it go. That thud. Oh God.
Yeah. It's really brutal.
I remember watching it and being like, well, dude, you kind of should have seen that coming. I mean, you make a deal with the devil, there's usually,
Yeah, but I'm guessing that he hoped that he would spare his wife some kind of agony or something. I don't know.
But I'm pretty sure she's a spiderling now. Pretty sure we solved that mystery.
She's a spider. She's some kind of insect. They turned her into some kind of fucked up insect. Man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's an arachnid now.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But yeah.
So then we get this moment where like Leto, again, this is also very Shakespearean. He's like laying there, he's like whispering something, and then Baron gets closer and he's like, I forget, he has some line, but he says something and he like spits the poison at him, and basically everyone dies.
Oh yeah, it's like instant death again.
Yeah, everything
dies. Apparently is instant death. Nothing is like, I mean, maybe there was some prolonged agony, but yeah, the Baron had very intelligently turned on his shield that he has kind of on like this weird, like almost, it looks like a prosthetic finger, but I think it's just kind of like some like jewelry or something. And he like turned it on beforehand, which again, just, he's not stupid. He's like, he might be paralyzed, but there's things in this universe that can still kill you. And that's when Leto like breathes the poison out. Everyone like melts or some shit. And
everyone dies. Later on, we see like that the Baron survived, and he's like up on the ceiling.
Yeah, like he still got fucked up.
Yeah, he got fucked up, but he's up on. And then at some point, they put him in a vat of.
It looked like cold brew coffee, and that's what it looked like.
Like what the hell? Like oil or something? I don't know what they put him in, but. They put him in some kind of a vat of stuff to heal him. This universe is so insane. Yeah. I don't even know what that was. So Paul and Jessica are in this little still tent. So it's like this thing that kind of protects you from the elements, and also retains your water.
Except for spice, it still gets in.
So then he has a spice vision, and this vision is really crazy. It's really, really cool. He sees like one of the first things he sees like this battle, and it's not super apparent like at the offset of this film what the battle is, but it looks like basically it's like the Fatican, which is like these super elite Fremen warriors fighting the Sardaukar. And they're wearing these like super gold kind of Power Ranger looking suits, and they're fighting, and this fight scene's super brilliant. Like whatever the hell is going on here, I'm all for it. I like it. I'm down for it.
Yeah, I don't care what's happening. I want to be there. Well, not really, but I want to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it. And in the background, a fucking sandworm is like emerging out of this.
Yeah, I didn't see that the first time around because your vision is so fixated on the characters that are moving that you don't see it at first. And then the second time, I was like,
it's a fucking So this is the tease almost, but it's like an idea of what's to come and what his destiny is. And it's kind of hard to like understand what he was saying, but he says this line. He's like, I see a holy war spreading across the universe like unquenchable fire, a warrior religion that waves the Atreides banner in my father's name, fanatical legions worshiping at the shrine of my father's skull, a war in my name, everyone shouting my name. And he says that kind of over and over and over again. And this is like, he's like finally seeing like kind of the dark purpose of what, or at least, there's another thing too, is like, what are his visions? Are they the future? Are they possible futures? Are they things that are definitely going to happen? We don't know for sure. He gets another vision of himself on Caladan with Chani and some other Fremen, and they're like, I mean, talk about the dark side. I mean, it looks like it looks bad. Let's put it that. It looks like he's gone bad.
Yeah, it's almost like, what's the cost of liberation? What's the cost of bringing life back to Arrakis?
Yeah,
and it's unfortunately a human cost most of the time, and he's gonna have to shed a little blood, and a lot of blood. You know, by the time we get to the second book, Paul is kind of seen as a monster. Like, he is a monster to a lot of people, and he's got to live with that. And I think that's what he's just like. He's tripping out in this tent, and he gets pissed. He gets pissed at Jessica, which I kind of think is his right to be a little pissed off. You know, like, I feel like everyone goes through that phase, you know, like, fuck mom, fuck dad, like, you know, and I think this is his moment to be a little pissed off.
Yeah, because it's more than just like, you know, mom wouldn't let me go, you know, to soccer practice or something, you know. It's like he's part of
chosen one shit.
He's part of some, and like no one else can help him with what he's experiencing, because he's like seeing these things, these potential futures, potential pasts, all this
knowing
stuff.
Things he might not want to know, like, that's a lot to deal with as a kid. Like, no, I don't want to know that shit. I don't want to see, like, and in his dad's name, like, that really hit home too, because like he loves his dad, and like there's people out here murdering other people in his dad's name, and like, which could also mean something else, like, later on, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. I'm not. I don't know. But but I'm just saying. But like, it's not all sunshine and L'Oreal commercials with Zendaya. There's actual like consequences.
The L'Oreal commercial turns into like the fucking it turns bad. Yeah, it turns into the Purge. Yeah, it gets really bad. Yeah, so that's like a really important scene for, like, I mean, everything that's going to be in Dune in the future. And for him, because he's like, holy shit, I don't want any part of this, really. But he's stuck with it. He's stuck with it, you know. So then the next morning, Paul and Jessica, they get discovered by Duncan, and the Kynes gives them safe harbor, and so they're at some kind of ecological place. Like, they talk about, like, Kynes talks about basically at one point they were going to try and terraform Arrakis into like a kind of a habitable planet, because there's water like way deep down in towards the core. But they found the spice, so they were like, nah, we're not going to change anything. We're just going to mine the spice forever. That's what we're going to do on this planet. So then the Sardaukar find them, and they come, and we get another kind of fight between the Sardaukar and some of the Fremen. Meanwhile, Paul is sort of embracing his destiny in a way. He like starts talking to Leah Kynes about like, oh, you know, like I could be the Lisan al-Gaib. I can make Arrakis a paradise if I was to become the emperor. He's basically like using the prophecies to like get people to help him obtain more power.
Kind of like a Bene Gesserit.
I mean, that's why the Bene Gesserit did the stuff. That's why they placed all these things,
that's why they did the thing to do the other thing.
to allow the prophet to gain more power, to do what he needs to do. Yeah,
exactly. And that's when he kind of like, oh, the emperor none of his daughters are married. Hey, daddy,
I'm here,
and that's gonna be interesting when we get to one of my favorite fucking characters, who I really wish we had seen just a little bit of, but I get it. I keep reminding myself. It will come. It better come.
It will come. We're definitely getting it.
I'm gonna be so pissed if
we're getting an emperor. We're getting a princess. We're getting some other guys. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. We're gonna get some worm riding. We're gonna get some worm eating and killing.
I've never wanted worms so much.
I know.
But yeah, so Paul's like embracing his destiny, and he's just like, hey, like this could be the thing to do the other thing. Yeah,
I could be the Messiah, and I can make Arrakis a paradise.
And that's when he kind of like gets in her head a little bit. He's like, I've seen your dreams. I know you love the Fremen warrior.
You love the Fremen.
I know you consider yourself
a child. Maybe you had a child with somebody. Maybe you had a daughter. Maybe
you got a baby somewhere. Maybe got a baby. And yeah, so So he's just like getting inside her head, and she gets a little freaked out. She's like,
so
baby.
it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning as this film.
So is.
So then like Duncan's like kind of chilling, and we get this really cool shot that's kind of paid off at this point, where he's looking at this bug. There's this little, I don't know, it's kind of an insect, a beetle or something. He's looking at it, and because like when we saw Paul talk about his dream about Duncan dying, we see the little insect crawling on the ground, on the sand, and it's the same bug in this scene. And then he's like looking over, and he's still okay. There's some kind of conflict going on. And there's this great scene of like the Fremen, like we see the Fremen, and they're like making coffee by like spitting on this thing. It's really crazy anachronism. And then they kind of know someone's coming. So then we get another shot where we just see the cup, but it's just a bunch of sand. and then like in the later scene, the starter car, they like descend down into where they're staying, and they're like slowly creeping up, and then the freaking Fremen burst out of the sand to attack them. So that's
I really want a scene of them getting into the sand. Like I want to see them actually like burrowing in and shit, because I'm like, that's gotta look ridiculous. Like the payoff is great, but like I want to see them burrowing. I want to see them get in.
I want to see them burrowing.
I want to see it.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And so basically Duncan Idaho's like, okay, I'm gonna fight to the death to protect them. So he gives the Atreides salute to Paul. He locks the door, and he takes on like 8 to 10 to 12.
He takes a lot down with him. Like, this is why Duncan Idaho is a supreme badass.
Yeah.
Like, just such a good dude. Just like a solid dude, you know?
Yeah, really
like, you want to be friends with him.
Great character.
It's like, what a phenomenal character.
Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and this scene is great when he's fighting all these dudes. Like, it's so great. It's amazing. It is fantastic. Yeah, I love it. And he like gets stabbed in the chest, but he keeps fighting, and he fights him off, gives Jessica and Paul enough time to escape. They escape. They get into a thopter. Leah Kynes takes there's like 2 paths, and Leah Kynes takes another path. And we're about to actually see Leah Kynes ride a worm, but then she gets killed. She gets stabbed in the back by Sarkar. Yeah.
I kind of forgot for a minute, and then I was like, oh, right.
You betrayed the Emperor, and so we're going to kill you. And then she starts pounding the sand. So like she puts down a thumper to like attract the worm so that she can ride the worm. But then, she gets killed. Well, she gets stabbed before she gets killed. She gets stabbed, and then they're like, you betrayed the Emperor, so we kill you. And then she's like pounding on the sand and comes and eats all of them, all 4 of them.
Master.
I have one master, and it is Shia Lud.
Oh, it's so great.
Boom. Yeah, it's great. Her character is like amazing. It's just amazing. Oh, yeah. Everything just about
a
her.
Wonderful character. I loved it.
Yeah. So Paul, So now they're flying, but they're being pursued by 3 other ships, and they fire some missiles at them, and then so they have to fly into this massive sandstorm. And they're, it's not looking good. But then Paul has this vision where he's talking to this guy Jameis, who we haven't met yet, and then. Again, another one of the great quotes of this film. He's talking about just it's like he's seeing an alternate future where James was his mentor when he becomes a Fremen, and he's talking about the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. It's a process that cannot be understood by stopping it. We must move with the flow of the process. We must join it. We must flow with it. And he understands that this means, I have to like kind of flow with this storm in order to break through it. And so he like lets go of the steering, and then they kind of fly through the sandstorm. And then at this point, everyone thinks that they're dead. Everyone thinks, okay, they flew into the sandstorm and now they're dead. That's it. But, and this is where we see Baron Harkonnen in his vat of whatever
cold brew coffee vat, just floating around. That's how he gets his powers, just cold brew coffee.
Yeah. And so then he tells Rabba, like, okay, there's one thing I need from you. Squeeze the Fremen, get as much spice as possible. We need income, because it costs us a lot to get this army to destroy the Atreides. But then we see that Paul and Jessica survive the sandstorm. They get out of it, and they crash, but they're alive, and they get some still suits, and they're off into the desert to find the Fremen. And they're just like, we get a whole bunch of these, very beautifully shot sequences of them walking around the desert. And then finally they get to, they're like traveling at night, and they run into some drum sand. That was another thing I had to like look up, like what he was saying at that point in the film, because like the first like 3 times I was like, he said what? What is it? Because this is another like Duneism. Drum sand, it's like sand that's like, it makes a really loud sound when you step on it for some ecological reason. And
for whatever reason. I don't remember why. Yeah. It just does. It's one of the quirks of the planet,
Yeah, exactly. It's an arachicism.
Yes.
The main thing though is that it attracts worms. When you step on the sand, it makes a loud sound and the worms come after you. So the worm, they're like, oh shit, we gotta run. So the worm comes after them, and the worm kind of has this interesting kind of
it's almost like when
meeting.
Stilgar said, I recognize you. It's almost like even the worm is just kind of like,
should I eat you or not?
Like, what
Yeah.
are you? I've seen you before. Like, for whatever reason, it's just kind of like, it kind of looks like an eyeball, just like this massive behemoth.
Examining.
Like examining him, and then the little, like, you hear the thump thump go again, and it's almost like Paul doesn't want it to go. He's almost like, wait, I have so much more.
But then it goes
You're
away.
Terrifying, but I want to see you.
Yeah, the connection is starting.
Mm-hmm.
This is Pokemon. So then they continue. So like once they're on solid ground, they're like pretty safe. So they're continuing in, because they identified. Oh, I see some like greenery. So the Fremen must be there. So they were going that way. And then they get kind of surrounded by the Fremen, and the Fremen are trying to kill them for their water. And then they get into like a little scuffle, and then Jessica, who is not just a Bene Gesserit witch, but she's also a fucking trained swordswoman, kind of takes out Stilgar.
Yeah, he's kind of like, oh, hello.
Oh yeah, it's like, well, you didn't ask if I could fight, but I can.
Yeah. Don't fuck with me and my kid.
Yeah, don't fuck with me and my kid. And so then Paul officially in real life meets Chani. And
she's not all that impressed.
No, she's like, what did she say to him? She says like, oh, I thought that you're the whatever, but you just look like a little boy.
You kind of look like a pasty-faced emo kid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You look like the lead singer of The Cure or something. Not impressed.
Kind of like Harry Styles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, she's kind of just like, you took the hardest way up, right? It's like that whole like when girls like a boy, like young girls when they like a boy, they're mean to them or vice versa, and she's totally just a dick to him. I mean, granted, she's got a good reason to, but she's like, you took the hardest way up.
Yeah.
She just points out his flaw immediately.
Yeah.
There's like 6 easier ways to get up here.
Yeah.
I guess you're
that was funny. Yeah. And that's a really interesting, moment too for him, because he's like met the girl of his dreams.
Literally the girl of his dreams. He's been seeing her for like months or some shit, and he's just like, crazy. He has no words either. He's just like, oh.
Yeah, that's crazy. So then Jameis is like kind of mad. He's like, I don't want you to take them. I don't want you to take them with us. I invoke. I'm tall.
Yeah, that's like the big reveal, is that this is the guy from Paul's like vision.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And this is really like the first time I saw it, it really kind of threw me for a loop, because like it's not that he sees him just in that one vision training him as his mentor. Like he sees him like when they have that vision of Caladan, and all of them are up on the ship, and they're being like praised by their jihadists, basically. although they don't use that word for very good reason. They don't use that word in this version, but that's what it is, jihad. So it's a universal jihad is what he's bringing about. But anyway, he sees him there too. He's a part of his entourage of Fremen worshippers, and it's like, but this dude's like, no, I want to fight this dude to the death. I want to fight her to the death. I want to be, the leader, basically. And then he's like, I invoke Amtal. It's like, okay, who will be her champion? And Paul's like, okay, I'll fight you.
I volunteer as tribute.
Yes. And then he has all these visions and stuff, and like all these kind of like, basically yeah, it's almost like the voices of the ancestors or whatever that thing is, like you're talking about, that transcends space and time, is like guiding him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying, in order for the PharaohHazard to rise, Paul must die, which means Paul has to kill this guy.
So and be reborn, basically. It's like it's a rebirth thing. And I don't necessarily think Jamis was... I mean, maybe in an alternate timeline, if things had been like a little different, he would have been like a pal or a mentor to Paul. I think he's still a mentor. He still teaches Paul a very powerful lesson. Yeah, he's his introduction really to the Fremen of like, these are our ways. It's live literally or die. And we fight to the death sometimes. Like that's what we do. Yeah. And I think in a way he's still a mentor to Paul. He's, like I said, I think he still teaches Paul a very powerful lesson.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's 100%.
To be the Kwisatz Haderach, you have to take a life. Yes. And by taking a life, you take your own life.
Yes.
So it is like a rebirth.
Yes.
For him.
Yeah, 100%. So Chani is like, okay, dude, you're gonna die, but at least he's gonna kill you quickly.
And you know what? He like screams after she says that line, and I looked at Ryan and was like, I don't think he will. It's like, I think he would make Paul suffer. Just saying.
Yeah, a little bit. He's intense. Oh, and the actor for Jamis, I love this guy. I really love this guy. I've seen him in a couple other things. I've seen him in like a movie and one TV show, and he's very talented.
I really liked him in the part. He was very committed. Everyone is so committed, but he was great.
Yeah, we'll talk about like he like does this thing where he's like screaming or yelling. Like I really like that. It was like really intense.
It was good, man. It was good.
It was really
I'd be freaked out. I'd be like, you're just screaming at me. We're already fighting to the death. Shit, dude.
He's really intense. I love
it. But that's him taking his culture like to the extreme, and the extreme is the fight to the death.
Yeah,
which Paul doesn't really know it yet at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Paul doesn't know that yet. So Chani hands him a Chris knife. He's like, "Oh, my great aunt gave me this knife, and so I'll give it to you. It'll be an honor for you to die with it." It's like, okay, thank you. And this is again another part of the thing that he's seen in his visions. Someone will hand him a knife. I don't know who, but they're a friend, and that's going to be really important. And this is an important moment for him in his ascension to becoming the one. So Paul and Jamis have this little fight, and Jamis kind of gets bested by Paul, and Paul like gets him. Is like, "Will you yield?" And he's like, "No." It's like, "Whoa!" And then what's his name?
So insulting to them.
Yeah, it still goes like, "Whoa!" Like is he?
Is he just fucking?
Does he not understand?
Yeah.
They think they. It's not even that. They think that he's torturing him. They think he's being deliberately sadistic.
Yeah. Because
to them, the right thing to do is give someone a quick death. But he's like
prolonging it.
He's prolonging it. Yeah. And so, but then Jessica says, "Oh, he's never killed before." So this
that's
is really...
what Stilgar's kind of like, fuck.
Yeah.
This is gonna take a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then finally after the call's like, like a bunch of times, like Paul does it. He kills.
That's when that vocalization comes in. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
Yeah.
And he kills him.
Yeah, and he kills him, and they have like a nice little moment where he holds his hand as he dies. And then, that's it. And then Stilgar kind of says something in their language, and he says, "You're one of us now." And so now he's a Fremen.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, too, is like, so Jessica the whole time's like, "Oh, we need to get off world. We need to get him somewhere else so that we can get more power or whatever." And Paul's like, "No, we're not leaving.
We ain't going nowhere."
Says, "My father didn't come here not for spice, not for riches, but for the strength of your people. My road leads into the desert. I can see it. If you'll have us, we will come." And so that's where they go. Mm-hmm. That's what they decide to do. And then we get this nice little scene where Paul and Jessica are like walking with the Fremen on sand dune. Sun is like rising, and we see someone off in the distance riding a sandworm.
Such a tease.
Yeah.
Such a tease.
And then Paul
More
says,
to come.
"Desert power." Yeah. And
desert power.
Johnny says, "This is only the beginning." This is only the beginning.
And she looks over her shoulder for one last L'Oreal spot.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh shit, that was my dream."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are dreams and what are visions? I gotta figure that shit out too, along with puberty.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it. That's the film. Cool. So like, what were your overall feelings about this film? Like, I guess after your first viewing and after whatever your second viewing, or just like in whatever context you got after that. What were your initial thoughts and feelings about the film?
First time around, didn't care for Jessica's performance or the actress's performance. Again, I was just like, why are you crying so much? Let's move along. But first initial reaction is you're just excited that you're going to finally see this movie you've literally been waiting years for. Second time around, I appreciated the performance a lot more. I tried putting myself more in like her shoes, as you know, I'm not a galactic space traveling witch. So a little difficult, but you know, like, okay, she's a mom. She's the mom of what could be the Messiah. I think I'd be having a couple breakdowns too. And when you first meet her, she is very confident. She's very confident. There's no real vulnerability there. But as the movie progresses, she becomes a real person. I wish it had been a little bit more violent, but they're trying to reach a broader audience, so I get why it wasn't. Other than that, and the screaming at very inappropriate times. But other than that, I really have no issues with this movie. I thought it was really, really good performance. It was great. Again, you have all of these leading actors in one scene together, and they're all very beautiful. They're
both men and women.
Both men and women are gorgeous. I know a lot of people were complaining that Zendaya only had like 7 minutes of like screen time, but I'm like, again, good things come to those who wait, and she will come. Like, you're going to be very excited when you see what they do with Chaney's character, or Chani. And I wasn't angry. I just wish they had utilized her in Dreams a little differently than the same thing over and over again. I felt it was a little repetitive, but again, the camera and the sun love Zendaya, so
it kind of fit.
So it still fit, and again, it kind of came full circle because the first shot we see of her is almost the last shot we see of her too. So it still comes full circle. I don't want to get too nitpicky about it because again, she will be in the second one. Don't worry. Like, again, I was more upset that I didn't get Princess Irulan. That's just me. But again, she better be.
She will be in the second,
in part 2. So I think it's worth the wait, personally.
Yeah, this movie is really something. I think I liked I basically really liked it the first time I saw it. The more I watched, the more I've kind of like liked it more. I think the biggest thing that kind of there's a lot, right? There's a lot in this world. And especially like if you're someone like myself, I'm not really familiar with anything at all. I wanted this to be my first introduction, like totally without any context. And there's a lot of stuff where I feel like it takes the second viewing to like be like, oh, okay, now I think I understand that now. Now that I see the whole story. When you pointed
sandworm in the background of the vision, I was just like, I totally missed that because I was too focused on everything else that was going on. So there's still so much to see the second time around.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of like small, like anachronistic kind of stuff, just like about either a world or a character or a thing that the more context you know about the world, like I feel like the more sold you are on caring about Dune, the whole world, the more you're gonna really like this film because there's a lot there, and there's a lot of stuff where they just like they plant the seed. They just plant a little seed of something, and it's up to you to like invest more into like caring about what they're building. I think one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people have had as a criticism was like basically they felt like they couldn't connect with any character, and I think on top of that is like there's something about the film that makes it a bit harder to connect to. And I think the reason for that is like this film is not really doing something where there's a lot of spectacle. Like there's a bit of that, but really it's just it's almost there's like a grandeur to it, you know?
Yeah.
The shots are really grand and like the way it's building a real world.
Oh yeah.
It's not doing something to like make you be super entertained. It's doing it so that you can consume sort of a thematic purpose to the story, you know?
Yeah, and one thing I think that the director really understands is that Dune is a philosophy for a lot of people. It's a thought-provoking philosophy that you have to care about. If you don't care about it, you won't get it, kind of a thing. And you, again, like you were saying, we have to care about what's happening with like the lady who moaned really loudly. And I know that was kind of a criticism, but not really, only because, like, again, she's essentially, it's like if she was meeting the Virgin Mary. That is how intense and broad this whole thing goes. And you have to kind of see it. Again, I know it's hard to connect with characters like this. We're following an aristocratic teenage boy who is white, and he's complaining about being the chosen one. I get it. But I think there's more to connect than what people are willing to admit, because there's a lot of turmoil that goes on with, like, his parents, with his mom, and within himself as well. And I think we'll get more characters to connect to, and we'll get more time with characters to be able to connect. There's so many characters, it would have been difficult for them to give them all the right amount of everything. Like, I didn't think we got Stilgar enough, and I don't think we got Gurney enough. But that's because their journeys haven't totally started yet. I think we'll be able to connect more with part 2, because there'll be more for them to do as opposed to just being bodyguards and then fighting a battle.
Yeah, totally. I think the thing that really connected for me was, like, once I really kind of understood, like, I feel like this story, what's interesting is that it's a mother-son story.
Yeah.
Really? Like, that's the central, like, those are the central characters that we're going to be following, is the two of them, Jessica and Paul, and their kind of transformation and their story, you know, their journey that they're going to have.
And again, there's still so much more to come. There is an abundance of stuff that is going to happen that is going to make everything worth it. Yeah. Totally worth it. Again, like Jessica has so much more left to do.
Yeah. And I think the thing too, I think that there's a lot of, like, this film, if you don't care about some of the things that happen, especially these things that happen at the end where actually there is a change happening with Paul, like the fact that Paul does have to kill Jameis, and then he decides we're going to go and be with the Fremen. That's our path. If that doesn't really stick with people, and I can see how it doesn't, but if that doesn't really stick with people, I can see how people can kind of, like, feel cold to some of the story. But that's really what this part of the story is about. He's made that choice. He's made that change, and he's going on that path. And, you know, yeah, we're going to get some crazy stuff in the second movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be wild. Like, that stuff in that dream where we see him fighting, and then there's a worm coming out of the like ground. Like, it's going to be insane. Like, when the Fade can fight the Sardaukar, like, that's going to be, like, insane. Totally insane.
Yeah, and honestly, like, y'all have a great love story that you're looking forward to that's gonna rip your freaking heart out. It's gonna be amazing. I totally, like, it's so much, and multiple love stories actually. God, just like the amount of stuff people have to look forward to, and because the director was so crucially true to the book in a lot of ways. And in some original ways, too. There was definitely some originality that was thrown in there. Because he was so true to the book. And we haven't even gone through the whole book. He still has part 2 to get to. Just wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And this film is really great. This film's really great. I think that this film's going to feel better when people have whatever the full scope of the Dune stuff we're going to get. Whether it's Dune Part 1 and Part 2, or it's Dune 1, 2, and then Messiah, I think people, once they can fully consume the Paul Atreides story, they're going to think of this differently. Kind of the way, like, if you just had the Fellowship of the Ring, that would be a great film, but I think it would be a little frustrating for people.
We don't, totally.
You know, because they're very similar in the way. I just think that the Fellowship of the Ring, the way that film ended, we got this big fight at the end. You know, they fight with the Uruk-hai, and, you know, we get there's more of an emotional ending. It's stronger in that film, but this is very similar. Like, a character makes a choice and they go on a different path, and that path is going to lead them to places.
Exactly.
I think the other thing too is like this film. The other thing too, this film, I think in a lot of ways, it doesn't tell you how to feel. It doesn't purposely evoke a certain emotion. It's just presenting things to you that are very strong and very beautiful and very like compelling, but it doesn't do something to like, it's not like, you know, there's scenes where you get this beautiful shot and then you get music that says, oh, this is a beautiful shot. It's just there. And it's just the universe. It's just how this universe is. And I think for some people that maybe doesn't get them to connect as much with the film, I think. But yeah, I mean, I really like it. I think it's brilliant. So.
Oh yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm ready to watch it again before it leaves HBO Max. I think it's supposed to leave on like November 21st, so I got plenty of time.
You got time.
When I watched it a second time around, Ryan came into the room and he was like, "Are you watching that again?" And I'm like, "You're not."
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you sitting here with me? But yeah, he actually tricked me. So. Yeah. I told him we were going to watch Dune. Like, I kept, like, all day. I was like, we're going to watch Dune now? He's like, what? We have to do some things. You can wait. I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I genuinely can't. And he was just like, oh, yeah, I've heard it was a book or something. I don't know why he did this, but he was just fucking with me. And by the end of the movie, I was just like, oh, my God, it's going to be so great. There's going to be this. He's going to be this. And he's just like, yeah, I know. I'm like, what do you mean you know? He's like, I've read, like, 4 books. And I'm like,
that's great.
It's like, in the 2 years we have been dating, you have never once brought this up. And he's like, I didn't know it was a requirement. I'm like, fuck you, you didn't know it was a requirement. Do you know who I am? And he was like, well, I guess I was just really, you were so excited. I didn't want to, like, steal your thunder or anything. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. But yeah, he, like, knew cool. Everything. Like, he even was just like, oh, no, Duncan Idaho died? I'm like, you asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
That's funny. Well, at least like something to be excited and talk about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. And now I'm gonna like I've been just like talking his ear off. And he's like, I really don't remember that much. I'm like, yeah, you do. Shut up.
There's so much in this. There's so much.
There's so much they could do. They could even do like I mean, if they wanted to, they could do a time jump. And do books. I think the books do a time jump at one point. I can't remember when though, because eventually they skipped Dune. They combined when the Sci-Fi Network did it. They combined Dune Messiah and Children of Dune into one miniseries.
Yeah.
Probably for just for the sake of time, and they're both equally good back to back. I'd like to see them do something like that, but I don't know. Yeah.
I suspect if there's anything, well, we'll see. I mean, there's so much stuff that could be done. There's to be honest, like there's stuff that they shot for this movie that we didn't see. To
be on the cutting room floor, I would just
I know.
Just want to see it.
Yeah, banquet scene. Apparently they shot that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, again, like a lot of this is for pacing. For a 2.5 hour long movie, the pacing is really good. Like there is not a dull moment.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Dogs.
So, how would you feel about an extended cut of Dune?
I would definitely watch an extended cut of Dune. I mean, I just want more. You know what I mean? As soon as it was over, I wanted to watch it again. I was just waiting for the news announcement that they're going to do part 2, which was probably already a given, honestly. But like, I would watch an extended cut over the course of a few days. But I would watch it for sure.
I hope it happens. I don't know if it will happen. I think there is stuff there. I think there's some stuff that we're going to end up getting in the second movie. Like, I think they shot all the way up to there's like some kind of water ritual. I forget exactly what that's called.
Oh.
But I think
remember what it's called, but if it's what I'm thinking it is.
It's what you're thinking it is. Yeah. I think they shot that for this movie, but they didn't have it be a part of this movie. But I know we're going to see it. Yeah. We're going to see that. I'm pretty sure we're going to see that very early on in Dune Part 2, probably.
Yeah.
As a part of their journey.
I don't know how many spoilers we want to put in this.
Yeah, like for future stuff.
For future stuff, I'm hoping if you're watching this, you have some knowledge. But you're not supposed to drink spice when you're pregnant. You might bring about the Antichrist. Poor Aaliyah. Like,
oh yeah,
She didn't like Jessica's not a bad mom, but she makes very questionable choices with her pregnancies.
She made some decisions.
She made some decisions that had serious consequences, not just on the people around her, but on the children themselves. And like when I say Antichrist, I mean the Antichrist. Everything that Paul does not want to be happens to a child.
The child, yeah.
And it's
intense. It's intense. Yeah, but that's what we have in store. I mean, plus again, the Fatican and all these massive battles and worm riding and the Emperor and the Princess. Yeah, some clones. Maybe some clones. Yeah.
I forget what those are called. They're called something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's just, again, like, I just feel like there are people who are going to watch this and they're going to get really invested in Dune. They're going to have the best experience.
I hope so.
I think that, because, like, that's been for me. Because, like, again, I wanted this to be my introduction. And since then, there's just so much stuff that, like, it's really fulfilling. It's really, really interesting. It's really, really deep.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a lot. Man, God, there's a lot of stuff that you can get into with Dune.
The world building is truly, truly impressive. It really is. It's not even. It goes beyond impressive. It's just like, yeah, you wrote the book on world building. It's just literally, truly, truly phenomenal. I don't remember at what book it stops being Frank Herbert and starts being his son.
I think book 6. I believe there's 6 of them are his, and then I think there's 6 of the son. Too. Yeah,
he's written a lot of it, of the extended. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Brian Herbert. I've never read anything of his personally, but I know that they just keep going and building, and it's. I mean, people are still reading them, so somebody's got to like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge franchise, and it's going to continue. I mean, you're going to see it become an even bigger franchise now.
Oh yeah, I am sure. I foresee I see an HBO series in the making. I definitely see that. I don't see why they wouldn't make a property out of it.
Games.
I foresee that. Games.
RPG. I love a Dune RPG.
Oh yeah, I'm sure plenty of people would love it. And it's just, it's given life back to a otherwise kind of, I wouldn't say forgotten. Dormant, for sure. Not forgotten, just dormant. It's been waiting. It's been waiting for the right time.
It's been waiting for this moment.
It's been waiting for this moment. Others have tried before, and it happened. But it definitely makes me, just because I want more Dune, I pulled out this. Mm-hmm. I pulled out my Dune Messiah.
Dune Messiah.
And so I'm ready to go back to Dune, and I'm gonna shovel through that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, like getting into it. It's like I'm really excited because there's so much stuff. This is just like setup, and I think that's kind of what people like. Some people are kind of mad about. It just feels like too much setup.
But it's an origin.
It's an origin, and it had to do so much work. There's so much work that needed to be done to get us into this world.
Yeah, this isn't your average origin story. There's a lot of origins that are happening all at once.
And it did a great job of it. And it did and now we're gonna get some crazy shit in this next movie.
And I can't wait. I'm very, very excited.
Cool.
We'll probably be talking about it in another 3 years.
Yeah, we definitely will. Any parting thoughts? Any last thoughts about the film?
Not really. If you really want a full Dune experience, like immersive education, I'd highly recommend Comic Book Girl 19. She does Dune Club, I believe, once a week. I've only been able to catch a couple because I work during the day, because I believe she's in California, so the time zones don't work for me. Yeah. But I tend to catch them post when they've happened. So I highly recommend checking out Dune Club if you really want an education. Now when I say a devotee and a philosophy, this woman has devoted her life to Dune.
Yeah.
So please check it out. She will be your Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother.
Yeah. She will lead you in the way.
She will lead you in the way. Or you can just go to Barnes & Noble and pick up the books, or order them off of Amazon. They're very easy to read. They're very immersive. They're fun. And watch any of the movies. I also highly recommend the documentary that was about Jodorowsky's unmade Dune film, because I would have watched that personally.
Jodorowsky's Dune, yeah,
Jodorowsky's Dune. Very different. He was going to end it in an entirely different way, because I think he wanted to just make one film and have an ending to it. But I still would have watched it. Yeah, definitely. Just jump into Dune. Jump into it. It's an amazing. You won't be bored.
Great. You will not regret it. I just think this is just like the moment, and this is why I've just been so anticipating it. It's really interesting because, like, for me, like, this will probably be my favorite film of the year. But if I knew how I felt about this film, like when I first, when I heard about this film like 2019, it's very different. The experience, it's a very different but like fulfilling experience. It's almost like taking in a whole new world in a way, and it's not, like I said, it's not escapist. It's very introspective and very kind of philosophical.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so interesting. It's such an interesting experience. But for me, I've loved it. I love Dune.
No, and that makes me really happy to know that you've had such like a positive experience, viewing it and, just immersing yourself in it, because you have to let go and just let it do its thing. Because like I said, there is a philosophy to it. The mythology is wonderful and it's very thoughtful. Like Frank Herbert went into this knowing exactly what he wanted to write about. And it comes off the page. It really, really does.
Totally. Okay. I think that's everything we wanted to discuss. I think we both really liked it, so that was good. Really exciting to just see more of what's going to come in this universe. So, cannot wait. Sure. Really excited. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Take care. Hope you have a good one, and may the spice be with you.
May the spice be with you.
Yeah. Take care.